Yeah, you know, maybe like an inhaler so I could eat this pizza faster, or something like that.
What? There's very few people that can rock a mustache,
and you are not one of them.
But I'm like tough, so I don't mind.
He cries later.
Yeah. As you would do your inhaler, you're like, I got this. Yeah. Did you get dressed every day?
Fuck no.
More helicopters in the new house.
Man,
I'm going to tell you.
I was showering, man.
Joining us today is a dear friend and a man of many tales, HB. From navigating the choppy waters of dyslexia and the corporate world to even embarking on literal and metaphorical journeys across the country, our friend HB has embraced life with open arms and a spirit that says, bring it the fuck on. Right. And today's conversation is all about recognizing those pivotal moments in life, those crossroads where a single decision can catapult you into a world of chaos, adventure, and the unexpected. So, HB, our friend, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Thank you. That's a hype man speech right there, man.
It sure is.
Pretty good.
Bring really you good. On tour. Yeah, goddamn. You're like, coming out next, man with dyslexia. He's got it. No, yeah, good to be here, guys. I've been keeping up with the podcast, and I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
Good deal. Well, before we start, you know, one of the things that we always talk about on the show is what we're drinking today. David, what bottle did you get us today?
Got us a Texas whiskey called Yellow Rose, one of my favorites. I picked it up because I had to pick it up for my birthday.
Where'd you pick it up at? Because there is a strip club called the Yellow Rose.
Yeah. I picked it up at what's that? Well, now I got a bad joke. Yeah, just a club. Just a club. Just a strip club on the way here. Just that one. Just a regular old.
Yeah.
Well, as David said, he bought him for himself for his own birthday, which is at this recording is tomorrow. So let's go ahead and give a cheers to David here. Happy birthday, guys. You old man here.
Yeah. How old are you gonna be now?
Old enough.
I'll be 38 now.
Yeah, welcome.
Joining the club.
Welcome.
Chris, you're 6 months behind. Joey's like 18 years behind.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like a little boy.
He's a young man. He'll still got it, buddy.
He's like, hi, guys.
I definitely don't feel like a young spring chicken anymore, though.
Yeah. Well, you don't look like it either.
Get the hell out of here.
No, David always likes to give me some shit when I turn the older age. And so anytime he makes the same age as me, I'm like, yeah, that's right.
You welcome him with open arms.
Right.
I got 5 more hours.
Come on up here. Wait, 5 more hours for me?
No, for yeah, I can make fun of you for 5 more hours.
Right, because I'm going to turn like what, tomorrow, you think?
Well, I turn your same age tomorrow.
Oh, I see where you're going with that. Bad joke, but I see where you're going. Gotcha. Okay. All right. Yeah.
It's simple math here, buddy.
Well, happy birthday, buddy. You know, I love you, buddy.
Love you too, man.
Yeah. Also, I want to point out, whenever I say buddy, that's how I talk to my dog who's on the spectrum.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like...
kind of a similar thing.
I'm like kind of saying like, you're probably right. You know, like Cody would do. I'm like, I'm not actually meaning it. I'm like, that's a hair tossle.
Yeah.
How do you know that your dog's on the spectrum?
I mean, you look at him.
Yeah, it's
just by looks.
You look at him.
It's very clear.
The way I describe the two, so yeah, I have 2 German short-hair pointers. One is fancy and one is on the spectrum. He's the rescue. Fancy one's obviously not. And the way I describe them when people see him and they see Audi, because he's the special one, running around chasing like dragonflies, you know. Well, the way that they work, because they look so identical, people always think that they're related. I'm like, no. He's on the spectrum, and if you were to take an original key and put it in your keyhole, it's going to turn the lock. It's going to be a nice, clean entry, and you'll get right in. But then if you go make like a copy of that same key, like it'll work, but it's just not going to be quite as sharp as the original.
You have to try a couple times.
Jiggle the handle. It'll open the door, but it's just not going to be quite as sharp. And that's Audi, and that's how we know him. And he's a sweet boy.
Audi is my favorite of your two. I for anybody that doesn't know, you guys probably don't know, is HB and I lived together for, gosh, what was it, like
too long?
Yeah, it was like 5 years or something like that.
Yeah. Too long.
Yeah, a very long time. And so I helped raise those doggies, the little pups, the little raptors. And one of the funniest things in what you're talking about with Audi is he will get stuck on a loop. He finds a bird and he will sit there and bark. The bird will be gone, but he will still be barking, and you got to like yell his name. All right.
Yep.
And then he's like, oh, yeah, sorry. Thanks for getting me out of the loop.
When did that bird leave?
Yeah. Where am I? What's my name? No, that's very true. Same thing happens when he's drinking water too fast. He sits there, and if he's really thirsty, he just drinks and drinks and drinks, and you have to be like, "Outie!" And you have to shout it in this sharp way, so he recognizes that you're yelling at him. He's like, "Oh God, I fucking forgot." Because then if you don't stop him, he will immediately go to the side of the bowl and just throw up a bunch of like gelatin liquid. And you're like, "Awesome, dude!" And he looks at you with these like eyes, like, I did it again.
You weren't here.
And you're like, dude, I fucking hate you.
So just to be clear, is it if your dog drinks a lot of water, chases lightning bugs, or is attracted to birds flying up in the air, your dog's on the spectrum?
R word. They're the R word for sure. They're the R word. Absolutely.
Damn. Yeah, okay.
I mean, there's other ways. Like you know them, and also I've had like nurses and people who know that kind of thing, and they're like 100% this dog.
Do you ever question like, what do you mean 100? What would you call it in one word? And they're like,
it's like his like inability to like
process information.
And just really, he just look at him. Like honestly, you just look at him, and he's got this little narrow head, and he's just
not much room for brains in there, huh?
R word, you know?
R word.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, we got off to a fun start.
That wasn't expected. But, I figured the dogs were going to come in at some point, but not like lead into it. But,
well, let's right the ship here. But HB, thank you again for coming on, and you know, we've all known you for a very long time, but let's give the listeners kind of a backstory on yourself, and you know, tell everybody about yourself, kind of where you're from, like what makes HB right now?
For sure. So there's like a whole spectrum of stuff, like anybody, I suppose. But I've been kind of on an interesting path the past few years, and I think like the general concept of like what we're going to talk about today is kind of like what I did, where I've been, what challenges I've overcome to kind of get to where I'm at, and at the same time, I kind of feel like, there's like basically just like a whole slew of things. But there was a recent change that I had to like kind of go through that changed my entire like life and trajectory. But with that, I think that like what we're mostly going to talk about today is like some certain challenges that I've overcome and what I did to kind of get there. And at the same time, I kind of feel like a little bit of like imposter syndrome when talking about this. Is like coming to me about overcoming changes and like life things. I'm like, I don't know. I think there's definitely people you could speak to that would be like way better versed on this topic. But at the same time, in doing all this, I think I've kind of learned that it's like, no, like don't doubt yourself and what you've done. Like recognize some of the things that you've overcome and challenges that you've like persevered through, and be proud of them. You know, don't like understate them, like, because everybody's story matters. I did not intend to say that, but here we go. You've been listening. Yeah. So I mean, I think like one of the things that like I can kind of like jump off on this topic with is really even like an origin story of like how I got to know you guys.
Okay.
So that started with my graduation. I went to Texas Tech, guns up.
Ew.
Yeah. Throw that in there.
Sorry about that, bud.
No. It was well, there's a whole nother story I could tell, like how I arrived at Texas Tech, but I don't think I'm going to dig into that. But if you've seen Orange County, that's the story. That is exactly what happened.
Were you Jack Black?
No, I was Hanks's son. I was that guy. Yeah. I wish I was Jack Black in that story, but no, definitely not that cool.
They said it was whatever fire. Yeah, totally. Electrical fire. Yeah, it was totally electrical fire.
He knows the story way better than I do. So basically, there were some like challenges like right at the end of my college and to get me to graduation, I had a bit of a rough batch. And so that I graduated, it was 2008, and it was like, okay, I have a public relations degree and the market just crashed. Awesome. Like, there's no jobs, there's none. It's like, great. Well, I had this option of potentially like moving back with my parents for a little bit, but like my parents moved out of Austin and now live in like Southeast Texas. I'm like, I'm not going to go there. I love them to death, but like, that's not where I want to go. I ended up making it back to Austin and waited tables. And I think also part of what I think is like an interesting concept in this maybe episode is the idea of timing and the way that like these little things can like make a massive difference, where just like seconds can make a change. And so part of this story right here is in that moment when I decided to go back to Austin and wait tables for a while. There was a moment where I was offered 2 jobs. I was offered a job at, these aren't the jobs you expect to get out of college, by the way, at the county line and then at Tres Amigos.
So what's the county line?
So County Line is like, it used to be the staple barbecue place in Austin. If you came to Austin and you wanted barbecue, you went to the County Line on the hill. It's been there since 1975. It was a brothel. This place, it's still great. But they've kind of
they've been overtaken by some other establishments.
There's some really great barbecue out here, so it's hard to kind of keep up with it. And so while this is still like a place that you want to go and check out, it's not like up to Franklin's. Franklin's is like everybody wants to go there. Anyway, that's not part of the story. Part of the story was the idea that I was like, all right, well, I'll decide to go with County Line rather than going with Tres Amigos, which is also used to be an Austin staple. They're also out of business. Yeah. So like I decided to go that route, and then that's where I met David. David had just started working at County Line like a couple of weeks
I think it was like a week or 2 before you did.
So immediately we got into a life competition forever. We're like, all right, we're locked in on this. Like who's going to come out on top? No, I say that and I think it's in jest, but at the same time, like honestly, I think that there is a little bit of like, all right, like what's going on with this guy?
Yeah. What's he doing?
Yeah.
What's he doing? Oh shit, he's beating me right now.
Yeah.
Fuck, I got to do better shit.
Yeah. I mean, but I think we've gone in kind of like different paths currently, but like at the same time, like I love the shit out of you, buddy. Like,
I love you too.
I do. Yeah. I mean, I'm literally right now staying at David's house right now because him and Maria are like my second home now when I come back to Austin. So.
Yeah. He's got a free vacation home.
Yeah. I got a couple now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a flex? I got a few. It's okay. You can flex.
Yeah.
You can flex.
I mean, you wouldn't be impressed necessarily on the living situations, but sure.
Yeah.
But no, that's just goes to show like, if I would have picked this other job, it'd be an entirely different like situation. And then that would then change the entire trajectory of my life, which is just crazy. And so I worked at County Line for a while, and like, I truly believe that anybody who doesn't wait tables, like it's kind of a rite of passage in a way. Like you learn so much from it, and you can learn it from other ways, from like large depot establishments. But at the end,
large depot establishments.
I think you have to cut back to a few episodes back to like to see what I'm talking about.
Office Depot stuff.
Yeah. But I do think that it's a true rite of passage where you learn so much, but at the same time, like you also need to kind of get out of that life at a certain point because it becomes unproductive.
Yeah, I got a question for you.
Sure.
In terms of your choice working for the County Line, then you're talking about things that you can learn. Okay. What's one or a couple takeaways that you really learned that you're like, I'm really glad?
I think the biggest thing is just to be sure that you are a decent human to anyone you come into contact with. Like that's the absolute number one.
Sure.
Is how to treat people. Because when you're on the other side, you're like, oh my God, what an asshole.
Yeah.
What an asshole.
Do you have a story of somebody like what was the worst encounter that you had?
I'm sure we could get into the stories.
What's one that stands out to you?
Man,
I've got one of a guy that
I feel like David would remember some of them better than I would.
I've got one of this guy that I ended up being the only person that would wait on him. He came in, got the same thing every time. He complained about it every single time. And he was just such a fucking dick. He he didn't really tip, and he was just an asshole the whole time. He drank 3 glasses of wine, always got the salmon, always like, this salmon's horrible. And finally it just came down to a point. It was just like, hey bud, it sounds like you don't like our food. Why the fuck do you keep coming here? And so we banned him. Come to find out, he's
got banned.
Oh yeah, he's banned.
How do you ban somebody?
You go get the fuck out, and when you walk in that rrestaurant, everybody goes, "It's fucking Jim Bob. Yep. Get him the fuck out."
That was his
and
name,
then you throw salmon at him.
Get the fuck out of here, Jim Bob.
But basically, when I left, he was banned a week later. And when we banned him, we found out he was actually banned from every restaurant in like a 10-mile radius. Oh, wow. He had been banned from so many places. That's why he came to us, because it was the only place he could still go.
He hasn't ate in a day. He's like, yeah, I have nowhere to go.
I think his business, his business actually, he had a stone yard. His business went out of business.
Oh,
because
now I gotta feel bad for the guy.
No, you don't.
I do not.
No, you don't.
Fuck that guy. Just moved to a different town.
He was not one of my
yard.
regulars.
This was one that. This was more towards my bar days, towards the end.
Okay. Yeah. There are a few. I mean, like, there was one in particular. There was a guy who, like, he was actually pretty nice, but his wife was like, oh, nice. And I could tell you who he would be, but there's we're bending some rules here.
I think I know who you're talking about. I know exactly who you're talking about.
But they did. He had kids that were extremely difficult, and they would run amok across the restaurant, and they were not pleasant. And there was a point where he was like, hey man, you want to babysit my kids? And I was like, dude, like, you don't even know me. You want to like watch your kids? But I'm like, I don't think I'm going to do that. But he did tip well. So I will say that. So, I mean, the money would have been good on waiting for his kids.
Yeah.
Can you wait my kids?
It's just kind of like a good example of what you kind of get into with that kind of work. Like
it's a different perspective. You're able to see that there are shitty people, and this is how you feel. So you're like, I'm not going to.
And they're asking you to do things that like they don't want to do.
Yeah.
You know, you watch these kids. We don't want them around.
You're like, I can fucking tell. Yeah. They're not even at your table. They're bugging that table 7 tables away. I need you to go fucking stop them.
Yeah. Yeah. But the bigger thing, honestly, one of the hardest parts that I found about that job is I was working in the town that I grew up in, you know? And so that means that people who are coming in there, and I think even more so than you, because that was literally my neighborhood. Like,
that was your area.
I could about hurl a rock at the house I grew up in from that restaurant. And so when people would come in, they'd see you, and if they knew you, or they'd be like moms that you grew up with, or your like classmates, and they're coming in like business attire, like they just gotten off like lunch break and they're going in for lunch, and then they see you in like barbecue t-shirt, and like you're just like sweating. At least me, I'm a sweaty fool. I'm sweating right now.
Yeah, we can see it.
And they're like, dude, what's going on? And they kind of say it like, ew, what are you doing? And you're like, dude, I mean, I'm good. And you kind of like, you're like, I just want to take your order and do my job. But they can't get past the way that they want to like navigate that situation. And what they want to do is they want to offer you like, I think we might know somebody who's got like a job, you know, or something. And in the end, like it's all these like pleasantries that would happen. And you're like, dude, it's cool. It's cool. This is where I'm at. It's fine. I'll find a way. And so like, if you ever did like eventually you'll follow up on those things, and they wouldn't never like work out. So you kind of get in this state where like, dude, I don't want to hear about that. I just want to like wait the table and then move on. Yeah. But eventually I waited on my 6th grade drama school. Drama school was not the school.
You went to drama school?
So loser. That's something new I didn't know about you.
Loser. It was a drama class. Miss Brewer, what's up? I waited on her, and she was there with her husband, and she was like, she did the same kind of like song and dance. But a week later, I was working at a new job, and it was just like that. I was there for like 3.5 years, and just like that, she had found a spot for me. And I will say there's a caveat to that. So like, her husband was kind of like, we could probably get him in. And I didn't know why he was hesitant. I thought it was something that I did, which would have been valid, but I turned to find out later it was totally because of who she was like setting me up to go on work for. And so I'd gotten this job, and and this guy's a monster. He is just the worst person. And I think most of y'all, like y'all pretty much have heard some of these stories. I don't know if you've heard some of them, Joey, but this guy, he liked to like find. So I would also put a spin on it. So I think he had just gotten out of a relationship. And so when I first started with him, he was like going through that. So he didn't immediately get like predatory. But then I quickly realized that this guy was like preying on young men. And he was finding, in the end, like I was much younger than the guys he was going after. But I think that was a big reason of why he was like, you're hired. Like right out the gate. Like we had the interview and it was a one interview and I got the job. And then did he grab
over to your shoulder and squeeze it and be like, you got the job?
Not yet.
Oh,
not yet. Yeah. I worked for this guy for about like 4 years and it was kind of a slow progression where it was like, I think he kind of was like feeling out like how many lines he could potentially cross. And as far as it ever got was like pats on the ass. Uh-huh. And it's like, that's plenty, man. But like, those are just like physical. What it really gets into is the mind stuff that this guy does. And not just to like me or but like people around him. This is the way he just lives.
Like, what do you mean mind stuff?
I mean, it would be like, oh man, he like would walk by your office and like there'd be like a window and he'd just kind of like stare, like make eye contact as he's walking by. He makes solid eye contact and he makes solid like kind of aggressive looking eye contact and just keeps walking by without a smile. And so I think he's kind of always like keeping people on their toes so you don't know what you're going to get.
Sorry to interrupt, but you ever done that thing where it looks like I'm taking the escalator and you're behind like a couch and you're like, it'd be funny if he was like, did that, he just slowly declined closer to the ground.
While aggressively staring.
Well, that would mind fuck me. I'm like, where are you going? Where are you going?
That more so than the other thing. This guy just went downstairs.
We don't even have a basement. What are you doing?
We have a basement now?
There's no stairs here.
Yeah. There wasn't a lot of that play.
Okay.
He liked to think that he was a playful person, but no, in all honesty, like everybody knew this guy to the point where like our IT guy, cause he didn't work for our company. He worked for like a real company and, they went to my boss's boss and they're like, hey, he filed like a complaint because he could easily do that and not get in trouble. And so then their rules after there was this complaint on the books was like, all right, well, IT guy no longer has to go in that boss's office unsupervised. And like, guys, so you're aware this is happening and like that's the fix. It's like, you actually still have to go into his office, but you don't have to go unsupervised.
So this guy is messing with everyone, getting too close.
Yeah.
And their solution is going, well, just don't be alone with him.
Right. Yeah.
That's a good.
That's it.
That's definitely how you solve those problems.
That's it. That's how it gets swept into the rug. So it's like one of those things where you're like, when you go through it, like it is wild. And so I totally get the stories when I hear them. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I like technically like there's nothing ever like super physical, but I totally get it. Cause I felt like I was in a tight spot and like I needed this job and I was like, all right, well, I'm going to be dedicated to just making this for my resume and then I can move on. But it's like, if I need this guy as a reference when I move on, it's like, what is he going to do? And so like, he might not give me a good reference because of some like, no,
you just speak the truth. You speak the truth. You speak the truth though. That's what you can, I get it though. In those moments, it's easier said than done. Okay. Yeah. From my point of view here, I get it. Did you ever like confront him though?
No. I mean, like the thing is like, that's the type of person you can't confront with something like that.
Can't you slap his back in that piece that really hurts? And you're like, hey, yeah. And do it right back to him.
It's the kind of thing that you like, if you do confront it, depending on the situation. I mean, like I had like the example I just mentioned with the IT guys, like the confrontation happened and nothing changed. So it became very apparent to me, like if I did say anything, like it wouldn't happen. And in the meantime, I did also find out this guy was like, excuse me. There was a point where that like whole company was like going under. They were going to have their interest in the properties that we were managing were being like, they were defaulting on it. So they had to sell off the GP interest to somebody else. And so there was this whole year-long process where like that company was being kind of transitioned, the properties were transitioned to like another company that was buying it up. And so then I found out like these underlining things that boss had been doing to like tank my career. So I would be in a tight spot and I would need to go to the state he was moving to pursue real estate.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I didn't find that out until like a year later. I was like, I was just sitting in my office at the new company at this point, and like the new boss came in and they're like, hey, I just wanted to talk to you about like, you know, your future of this company. Cause like, it's just odd that like, I'm super happy to have you here now, but like I was concerned that you might not want to be here because that's what we were told when we were like trying to like buy up the GP interest on those properties. And I was like, what do you mean? No, I'm so happy to be here. This is like night and day compared to that last place that I was at. And she was like, well, like this guy said when we were interviewing everybody to see who would be good fits to come over, that you had no intentions on staying at that old company and you had no intentions on coming on to us. So I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
After everything.
I'm
guy.
HB. I come on to everything.
I mean, it's wild though, dude. Like after you think that like that there might be some decent sliver of human to this person, he's like, nah, I'm going to like, it's about me and I'm going to get him to come with me.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
So what happens from there?
So yeah, I kind of jumped ahead in the story with it, but when that whole like transition happened, that was like a really rough time. That company was like going under, so I was like held on as like a liaison to kind of keep everything like flowing. Meanwhile, like everybody's dropping like flies, and like I stayed because I was like, I'm gonna push through this because I wanted like the recognition for doing it.
Yeah.
There was no guarantee for sure to go to the new company, but I was like, I'm going to fucking do it. And I did. And at the end, the entire deal fell apart. They got none of those properties, but they were like, dude, you and you and you, we want you guys. So they pulled over 3 of us and they didn't even have a job for me. They were just like, dude, we recognize that you're like a hard worker and we're going to find a spot for you. So I was like, all right.
Nice.
Like that's one of the examples I feel like of like, you know, it's just so cliche, but it's like the hard work and just like, it pays off, you know? And then that was the first moment that I felt like, all right, this is something that like my work got me to this point. And at that point it was like, all right, now this is like the career. This is like my own like stepping off point. Cause the other thing, the first thing, like, well, like I earned it or whatever, like my hard work earned me staying there. I felt like I didn't necessarily like earn it, you know, other than like the slaps on the ass, you know?
Right. Well, I kind of feel that. It's like, you know, you have this picture of where your life is going to go. And for some reasons it doesn't pan out that way, depending on the economy or who knows whatever's going on. And you choose to go down a certain path going, okay, I'm going to work here. I didn't picture this, but this is what I'm doing. If you work your butt off and you treat others the way that you want to be treated,
for sure,
right? And you have your eyes on the prize, there's opportunity at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, like the biggest life lesson that I think that, I've heard certain people kind of say sometimes that, they're like, oh, and I'm sure they're hardworking, but there's some people I'm like, man, I've seen what you do.
But are you?
I've seen how hard you work.
Are you?
And I don't think you really are. I mean, you talk about it a lot, but like, you're not even cleaning the sink, man. Like, not that I'm talking about specifically roommates here.
No, we're not pointing any fingers here. Nobody is pointing a finger at anybody.
The sink was always dirty.
Yeah. Well, you know.
It came dirty. That was part of the countertop design.
Rigby. Yeah. So then like I started with that company. Oh, all right. So there's like a decent kind of like in between of like those stories.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, do y'all want to?
I like in betweens.
Is this what we had on the notes earlier today when we were talking about the crazy story that you have?
No. That's before that. Yeah.
Wow.
What do you want to dip into that one?
No. We will.
Oh, we will.
We'll come back to that other one, but let's get to this middle story.
Okay, so the middle story is something that Chris was present for.
Oh, great.
So this all kind of started in between the two transitions of those jobs. So I before the collapse of that first company, I decided I was going to buy a house in Buda. It was my first house. Bought it, super happy. Great.
And Buda is just south of Austin.
Yeah, it's a good old suburb living. This is like, cookie cutter neighborhood. It's a fine starter house.
Yeah.
But it was like killing me because I'm working 9 to 5 and I'm having to go into the office. And so that's like well over an hour each day just to and from. So I'm spending, honestly, like close to 3 hours in the car just getting to and from work.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and the house wasn't far past my first house. Like, I think it was only like 5 miles, but the way to get to it was single lane road off the highway, and it took forever in traffic.
And then I-35 is a
complete shit show.
Yeah, they hadn't done any construction on I-35 at that point, so it's still very narrow. And then the second I got it, that's when they started the construction. So it's now even more narrow. God. Yeah. So I mean, it's all good. Like that house is good, but I got bamboozled a little bit with me not understanding quite how like taxes work and making sure that I had the homestead exemption. So the second run of taxes came up and my mortgage like exploded. It went up to like $400 more than what I was paying. And at that time, I had 2 previous roommates. Oh, one of them was Coley and one of them was
my brother.
Aaron. Yeah,
I think it was my brother.
So Coley, who was here.
Shout out to Coley. He was on one of the last episodes.
Frisbee extraordinaire.
Black belt motherfucker.
Yeah. On paper, he sounds amazing. I mean, really. And he's one of the best humans I know. I've
on paper, he sounds amazing. And in real life, he's even more amazing.
He also looks amazing.
He does.
You better watch yourself.
Yeah. I mean, he would kick my ass. I mean, shit. He's not that mentality. But yeah, so they both moved in, and then they both happened to move out because they, got sick of my like naked escapades, running around the house. And then
so I came, and I was like, yes.
But you had it. Yeah, you had it. Oh, yeah. Chris loved it.
Chris was like, naked escapades?
Helicopter.
Oh, I mean, I'll pay double rent.
I'll pay more than your mortgage.
All the time. Yeah. And that was a huge help. The helicopters, not the money. That's how he said he sold us TV, but actually, really, he was just pulling his dick out.
Yeah.
and when you say helicopter, what do you mean?
Oh, I mean, you just get a little motion of the ocean,
Shake your hips,
Spinning around.
Oh, it spins around.
Joey can't do that.
Oh, well, if you shaved your bush.
It's a thing.
No, it'll destroy everything around me. That's why I can't.
Yeah. Well, that's more reason to do it. Yeah.
Maybe not in the podcast studio, though.
So this house, basically, I'll try to wrap this part up because it's like not entirely necessary, but it kind of gets to a larger picture. My mortgage exploded to being like almost close to like $2,000 a month. And at that time I was like strapped for cash. Roommates just moved out. So it's got $1,500 swing. I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm about to get fucked. And then I'm driving home one day. Oh, Chris has moved in now at this point. So I've got a little help. I'm like, all right, we're eking by. But I'm like, I got to get out of this house. I want out of this house so badly. And one night I drive home. It's a Friday night. I get home around like 10 o'clock. Stopped at Domino's on the way home. We'll get into pizza and my love for it later, but this will kind of illustrate that a little bit. It's going to be a lazy Friday night. I pull into the garage, come from the garage door, drop the pizza on the kitchen counter, round the corner, say hey to Chris on the couch, going up the stairs to grab something. I don't know what
Condoms.
it was.
Probably just change.
Yeah. Maybe like an inhaler so I could eat this pizza faster or something like that.
What?
There have been times when I've had to use an inhaler because I've eaten pizza so fast.
You have asthma?
I do have asthma. In addition to dyslexia, I also have asthma.
Okay. I've never heard that before.
So there is a measure. It's 1 in 5 times he doesn't need the inhaler when eating pizza.
Wait, so you need an inhaler when you get excited? So you got pizza and you're like, oh yeah.
I gotta be ready. I gotta be ready. I mean, to be honest, in that situation, probably not. But like, it has happened where I'm like, oh my God, I'm just like these cheeseburgers.
Domino's.
They got a new fudge pop on the line. Like, if anybody's seen Friday 2, I butchered that line, but I think you know what I'm talking about. Anyway. I'm like halfway up the stairs and it's like, boom, boom. Like, it's like something big just happened, but I don't see any presence of what just happened. I just hear this massive boom and the ground shaked.
It was loud.
It's like I'm living in LA, you know? I run back down the stairs. I'm like, look at Chris. He's still in the couch. And we're both like, I don't fucking know. I round the corner and I go out the garage door. And it's like walking from like normal life to a movie set where like you're just, or maybe another movie that's just chill, you know, like a little rom-com in this movie for Chris and I. And then you get into the garage and it's fucking like Bruce Willis has just wrecked his car. And that's exactly what it was. There's like flashing lights. There's like gasoline, gas and liquid. There's like people screaming. And I'm just like, oh, what the fuck? I had kicked my shoes off. So at this point, I'm just like going to reaction mode. I go running out there. So like glasses everywhere. I'm like getting glass on my feet, but I'm like tough, so I don't mind.
He cries later.
Yeah. As you would do your inhaler, you're like, I got this.
Yeah.
I got it.
So there's a truck that's run through my garage, set off the front of my house just slightly. So he had hit one side wall, hit my 4Runner, smashed both his massive truck and my 4Runner out the other side wall of the garage. And it's on its side, and he's pinned in. His girlfriend's like on crack, fucking like trying to like break into the truck, trying to get him out. She's like not helping at all, but she's like making a big mess of it. And all my neighbors are out. They beat me to it. Like they're out there like helping out. And I just immediately go and like I'm a tool guy.
You are a tool. Yeah, you beat me to it.
Yeah, but I was helping him. What would you have done?
I would have done my inhaler and kept walking on glass.
We're gonna keep going back to that, aren't we? Yeah.
Slam a slice, you know.
All right. Well, the tool is in my tool belt. I mean, the inhaler's in my tool belt as well. Gotta be ready.
He's got a hammer and an inhaler.
I was a Boy Scout, people. I was a Boy Scout. So be ready with that inhaler. Not that they have asthma, but they're always prepared.
We get it.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going with that. And so I run out there. I've got like my sledgehammer. I've got my crowbar, and we're like, let's get this guy out of here, because he's like the driver's side is the one that's on the ground, and the girlfriend's standing on the passenger side door, just like slamming her feet on the door. Like,
wait, you're trying to get him out of the vehicle?
Yeah, the car's laying on its side now, pinning his truck.
He's fully pinned in.
I didn't know if you were using it to attack the people.
Well, that came later, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, so then like, you know, neighbors are like, there's a guy who like was also in that car and he went running off. He like jumped fences and shit. I'm like, oh, I know what this is. But either way, like we're like, oh, let's get him out. And then immediately like one of my other neighbors, and I don't really know any, I didn't do a good job of making friends with those neighbors. We'll circle back to that maybe. But he grabs my arm and he's like, hey man, they're on your gas main. We need to go and turn that gas main off. So I'm like, oh yeah, good call. So we run around the side of the house. We get to where the gas main is. It's like, no dice, man. Both cars are slammed on top of the gas main. So there's no way for us to shut anything off. We're just like, well, let's just get back. And by the time we get back around, cops have now like arrived. And they're like, all right, everybody get back. So just kind of sitting out there on the stoop, like waiting for things to kind of like figure it out. All the neighbors come by and be like, dude, what happened? Because nobody knows it's even my house at this point. And then they're like, wait, this is your house? How are you like smiling and cracking jokes? I'm like, dude.
I ordered Domino's.
I didn't even get to eat it.
I did later go back. The cops have been like, get out. Do not go back in that house. And I'm like, but there's no pizza in here.
The pizza's going to be cold.
Pizza's getting cold and I'm hungry. And so I ran back inside and I'm like, what am I going to do? It's my house.
This guy comes walking out with a couple slices on.
I think I brought the whole pizza out.
Did you?
I remember.
I would assume you brought the whole. Why would you just bring slices? You got to put it on something.
You know,
so you just bring it out in the box.
I might have done a couple of slices. I think I might have just done a couple.
Because I was like, where's mine?
I'm like, yeah, fuck you, Chris. It's barbecue chicken. You don't want it.
That's true.
So yeah, I'm eating there, sitting there eating pizza and talking with the neighbors. They want to be like offering me drinks and stuff. I'm like, well, there are cops here. Like,
you could offer me money. That'd be great.
Sober. Well, they did later.
Really?
Yeah, they started a GoFundMe account, and I'm like,
oh, poor
wow,
HB.
I'm gonna move out of this neighborhood
Instantly.
But thanks for the money. It sounds really shitty, but it was very, very heartwarming. But
quick question: is there insurance coverage for this stuff? Like, how does it even work?
I was gonna get to that at the end of it. It's surprising because the company I now work for did the board up and shoring up of the second floor for that accident.
Really?
Yeah. So they went out, did that, and they also wrote an estimate for repairs.
So insurance does cover
really shoddy work.
Oh yeah, our board up people do not. I mean, they do a great job, but they're not out there. They're not fucking framers. They're like, let's throw a bunch of wood on here so it doesn't fall over. All right, it looks good.
Yeah,
let's get the fuck out of here.
I'm mostly talking shit, but like they were also in charge. I believe it was them that got bought by the insurance company to do the itemization, and that was the shoddy work. The board up, I'm like, who really cares? But they did like the itemization.
They put the car back through your house.
Oh, they
like,
did
okay,
They
all right,
did,
HB.
though. They kind of did. Like they had to like use multiple winches to get the cars lined up right to get them back out without collapsing as a 2-story house, without it collapsing the house.
Dude, the absolute carnage of those cars is crazy. Like, I'm sure we'll probably post some pictures up along with this episode. But
Got
like,
plenty.
dude, yeah, the picture of your car all beat up when it's getting pulled out of the garage like that, and then like what? It still drove after that, didn't it?
It did, yeah. And I actually tried to like hit up Toyota on like Instagram because I showed the video of them pulling it up onto the slab, and then once all 4 tires were on the slab, they started it up, and this thing is like mangled mess, and it just starts up and rolls on out of the.
Don't they have like multiple awards for like the most safe vehicle?
Toyota, dude.
It's Toyota. I think longest running. I don't know. I think Subaru's got the safe.
Fuck Subaru.
Yeah.
Who wants a Subaru?
Yeah. No, they're great cars. They're great cars.
No, they're not.
One crazy thing that I do remember about that night is, again, you had just gotten home and your car was in the garage where this guy hit it. If that had happened just a little bit before that, and he would have gone straight through. This guy was going like 70 or 80
he hit
down this. Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
He was going like 70 or 80 down this residential road, and we were kind of on like a little curve, and he would have flown right through into the next house, which is not even 10 feet from that wall.
Yep.
And that wall was right where their living room was. Yep. And weren't they saying like they were there with their newborn child?
They were exactly.
What? Yeah. Dude.
So it could have been much worse.
It could have been much worse, dude.
So that's part of what I love about this story is again, it comes down to the timing, you know? And at first I'm like, God, man, you know, if this would have happened or this would have happened, like I would have not been involved in it, but then I really started thinking like, oh my God, like I'm getting chills thinking about it now. It's like, if I would have paused a little longer, or the light I would have missed the light.
Or they fucked your pizza up.
Oh, that would have been the end. Fucking Domino's. That would have been the end. Yeah, they would have gotten a strongly worded email from Chris because I wouldn't have been around at that point. But it's one of those things where, I escaped that in a matter of moments because it's so easy. It would have been so easy for me to have been just getting out of the car and just been cut right in half.
Right.
Do you think about this still today? I mean, obviously you're telling the story today, obviously, but do you still like reminisce like the timing?
I do.
Really?
I do. Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not like every day.
Well, no.
But it's something where it's like, it's just so quick where something like that can happen and everything's different. And luckily, everybody survived that situation. But yeah, if I hadn't to come home that night, my car wouldn't have been in the garage, which meant it wouldn't have stopped it from running into the neighbor's living room because it would have absolutely. I mean, both cars went out the side of the house anyway. And obviously, if my car hadn't have been there, his truck would have been boom right through into the living room, and they were in the living room with their newborn.
Yeah, and your truck was only like a foot or two from their exterior wall when it all finished. So it came close to hitting their house anyway.
Yeah, force. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it was probably like, let's not get into like semantics, but like probably like 4 or 5 feet. But yeah, no, this truck was hauling.
As you get into semantics,
we're not going to get into details, but maybe like 4 or 5 feet.
But it definitely would have been that for sure. And then when you think of yourself like, oh, what would it feel like to be cut in half by a car? Like if you get sick like that, you're like, because I've definitely done that. I've been like, oh, what would it have been like if I just been like standing there next to my car with a pizza in hand and just like.
So do they know why that happened? Like what? So why did the truck even?
They believe. Well, we all kind of believe there were gunshots that were going on that night. Like this was an area of Buda that technically like wasn't Buda, but it was. And so on one side you've got this like gentrified little community, it just got built. And then on the other side is a little harder over there. And so if you look from that like street that comes from the harder community, if you just went straight across like the main thoroughfare that gets you to where my community would have been, and blow through the stop signs, you just go straight up to my house. And so it's not like I was on the dead end or anything, but if you just don't do the gradual curve through the neighborhood, you go right into that house. And that's exactly what happened. Like, this guy had to have gotten like air. He was going so fast.
Well, yeah, because you see the tire marks in the yard. They hit like that first bump and then there's no tire marks until it's the garage.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was a Dodge too, right? Like
it was almost my exact same truck, but it was a 4-door.
So bigger.
It was bigger.
Wait. Isn't yours a 4-door?
Well, the one I have now. But it was a 15. It was an older 15. It was like the same year as my old truck.
Yeah. But I mean, this guy had issues. He had disabled vet plates. He was a young man. And I think he had like some serious issues. So, like if you're in an area long enough, you're like, a guy who knows a guy. And so I knew a guy who knows this guy. And
deception.
Like we're all kind of connected in a way. And so we knew people that knew this character and like kind of the life he had been leading up to this point. And
was he on drugs?
That's kind of the idea of the guy jumping out of the car, is that I truly believe that there were a lot of drugs in the car and maybe also some firearms. And so when the guy started jumping fences to get out of that situation, I'm sure he was carrying the bag of like the good
whatever they had.
I was gonna say, I thought they found drugs and a gun and all that kind of stuff
in the police report. There was not. I think it was actually the toxicology report. I can't remember for sure of whether or not they found actual drugs in the car or if it was just a toxicology report that showed that he definitely had all the above in his system.
Yeah.
And so
probably not guns in his system, but
no, it was all lead.
Shit.
Lead. No. But then cut to like a year later, how when you check like your voice, your Facebook messages, and you're like, I'm not friends with this guy, so I don't see these messages. And there was a guy who was like, hey, sorry about your house. Really, really huge bummer that that guy died. I'm like,
oh yeah.
I'm like, what?
Inhaler.
This is gonna be a good one.
Yeah, it sucks.
It turns out the guy was strangled to death a year later in South Austin. So,
oh shit.
I'm like, all right, well,
Hey, it happens.
Yeah, you chase the dragon that long enough. You're gonna get strangled to death.
Exactly, man. That's crazy. So just to recap here. So you got into college, Orange County style.
Yep.
Then the economy crashed. You denied living with your parents in Southeast Texas. So you said, no, I'm not going to do that.
Denied.
You took a job being a waiter. You dealt with sexual harassment for a while, but you worked your butt off.
Sure.
And you got offered a new position when the sub company disintegrated essentially.
Yep.
And then you found a better job after that, or you stayed there, but then you found a new home, and you realize, oh my God, this was a bad decision because I don't have the money and my rent went up. And then a truck runs through your garage into your home.
I feel like you're missing one important key.
Oh,
Domino's Pizza was involved in this situation. That will be important here in just a little bit.
Barbecue chicken pizza.
Barbecue chicken sauce.
Pizza. Deep dish. Go ahead and get that deep dish. You won't regret it. Domino's, I'm going to need a plug here. Yeah. I mean, this is my life. Yeah. So part of that story is also like, for one, the biggest part of it, like, I think it's like important is just, again, like the fucking, like the timing on it. And that's crazy. But
here are the pictures.
So, are people able to see these, or these?
We'll post some of these. Yeah, we'll post these so we can see them right now. So these are.
Oh yeah, look at that Forerunner.
This is that
thing drove later.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Look at that beer pong table. It's live in action.
That beer pong table we still have. I think. Which one is it?
I was referring to the ping pong table.
Okay.
Multi-purpose. Yeah.
That's a picture I got at like 9:30. He's like, so something happened. Do you think maybe I could stay at your house tonight?
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, the fuck happened? He's like, a car just drove through my house. I was like, the fuck?
I sent this picture to, I was working at the airport at the time, and I sent this picture to my boss. I had to work at like 6 a.m. I was like, so I'm not going to be able to come in. This happened. And he's like, oh my God, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. He goes, okay, so you can make it in tomorrow. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, he was mad that I couldn't make it in, man.
Did he used to work at, well, I shouldn't say that name. Yep.
There it is.
Yeah.
He worked at Home Depot.
He worked at Home Depot, yes. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, so that's where they're pulling the trucks out, and they had to wait till the next morning to pull them out because they were afraid if they did it at night, it would collapse the house, and they had to get it posted up so it wouldn't collapse on itself. So Chris and I both slept in the house that night with no AC.
We did.
We did.
Well, because my sister lived around the corner, which was really nice because we were able to put the dogs over with her in their backyard because of all the shit going on. But yeah, I mean, it's dude, that night was crazy, man.
One of the crazy
was
experiences I've been through. I mean, that's
hey, they definitely shored that up really well. That one 4x4 can definitely hold up that second story.
Yeah. Sleep in peace. You're good. So that night I slept in the downstairs on, I believe, your couch.
Yep.
And then the next morning I woke up and I was like, all right, now it starts. Now it's like, let's fix this. And it's like, then it becomes overwhelming because I'm not only like worried about my own circumstances, but I first off, I have dogs. And then secondly, I'm renting a room to Chris and to Air Bear. And so it's like, oh my God, like I need to provide for them. These are my tenants, and like, yeah, they both have places where they could technically stay, their parents' place or wherever. But it's like, that was like an extra burden. Cause then you talk to the insurance company and they're like, yeah, we were only concerned about you, not your renters.
Right.
The caveat, the way I got around it was being like, oh, well, my dog's life is going to be impacted by this. They didn't care about the humans living in the house.
Oh, no, absolutely. They do.
They didn't care about the humans. They were like, oh, well, the dogs, they need a yard. I'm like, yeah, they absolutely need a yard. And so that was like, that allowed me to get an Airbnb for a while. And
that was a fun Airbnb too.
It was a great Airbnb. It was right in time for ACL. So we got over in like the ACL, like Barton.
That was probably one of the last years I went.
Did you go that year?
Yeah. Because we rode in the back of that truck. Some guy drove by and he's like, free rides.
Oh, yes.
And then we all hopped in the back of this big ass truck.
Chris also did that, but that time was a different random guy. Yeah. Then he took David away. We didn't know what they did.
Oh, yeah. I came back an hour later.
Yeah. He looked a little dazed, but we never talked about it again.
Hey, I'm good.
Yeah. You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
no, I mean, like, I'm good. That's why he was dazed.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So we lived in that house off of, right next to Zilker Park for ACL and everything like that. Yeah. So,
thank you, insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
Allstate
was it Allstate? Oh, I thought it was USAA.
No, they took very good care of me. I will say that they took very good care.
What kind of happened after the the house that we had the Airbnb, like how soon did you sell the house after that?
So that was the thing, and that was like one of that was a large big boy decision of mine. So insurance paid for this Airbnb for 3 months, and I was able to get the house fixed in slightly over a month. So wind back to where I was like feeling like I was about to be like upside down on that house in Buda, to now I'm like, oh, okay, I had this opportunity. The house has now been cleaned up. Nobody's living in it. I've got a place to live for the next 2 months that's pretty prime. And I also have I got paid out for all the stuff that was damaged that was in the garage. So not only that, I also had the check for the car that had been destroyed. So I've got a pretty hefty check, and now I have the choice. Like, all right, do I go and get my dream car? Do I go get
or more Domino's?
Domino's was had.
I like the Domino's idea.
I mean, it really ate me through the choice.
No pun intended.
I was like, yes. So we need to ponder these choices.
Yeah, you never had to think on an empty stomach. That's for sure.
No. And in that, I mean, there was no kitchen. Well, there was a kitchen, but it wasn't my stuff. You know? So I ate lots of pizza while we were there. Yes. I have a problem with pizza, guys, just so y'all know. I think everybody's aware
I don't
of that.
find that as a problem.
No, well, it depends.
I love pizza, but HB's got a problem.
Yeah. I can sit there and just crush a pizza.
You look good on the outside, but the inside of you is probably just deteriorating.
Yeah.
Then.
Well, I made this analogy the other day, or reference, I wouldn't call it an analogy necessarily, about well, now it's going to bring up another thing. Berenstein Bears, is it Berenstein or Berenstein?
Oh, you're talking about...
Well, that's not the intended purpose of this story.
Yes, Berenstein.
But what is it actually, Chris?
It's the Mandela effect.
Well, yes. But what is the actual name of those
Berenstein Bears.
It's Berenstein or Berenstein. That's the difference between the Mandela
spaghetti.
effect.
What is it?
But what is the actual
it's
name?
Berenstein Bears.
Berenstein Bears, but then people remember it as Berenstein Bears as far as the way it's
I always
spelled.
said Berenstein.
Yeah, I always said Berenstein.
But it's the way.
Berenstein.
But the thing is the way it's spelled on the actual books is different.
It's not the pronunciation; it's how it's spelt on the books.
Like Manchek.
Well, I don't know, but if that's been changed,
You're with me.
It's pronounced different.
Nah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, Berenstein Bears. There's one where they cut the apples open, and they're like, oh, this funky apple is gonna be terrible, and they cut it open. Like, oh, it's a nice apple, and then this pristine apple. I would say the pristine apple. They cut it open. There's a worm inside. That's more my speed.
This could be a health use case with Domino's in you or something. Be like, actually, I
don't
you
want to set
every day.
anybody on a bad path, that's a whole nother spectrum of conversation we can go down, because there was a point where I got a little fat, and I had to make some life choices and fucking and curtail that. But it's always a battle, man, because there's pizza.
Sure,
there's pizza.
Yep. Sure.
Pizza,
I am well aware.
Pizza and queso when you're in Austin. I mean, it's tough not to indulge. And really, when I say indulge, I mean gorge is more.
That's the proper terminology in this case.
But I do enjoy working out and fitness and all that. And I think we intended to talk more about stuff that was hiking and all that, and here we are talking about pizza.
It is what it is. There's no real route to this.
Sure, yeah. But anyway, so I all that happened. That I got to the first Airbnb, and I just remember melting down. It was all right, nobody's around. This is my final. This is my opportunity to finally be feel this a minute, and it was oh man, everything's exploded, everything. But it allowed me to then, let's get back to the topic. Yeah, it allowed me to make the decision between buying a nice, fancy TRD Forerunner, a Forerunner TRD Pro, which is my fucking dream car to have.
Okay.
Or be a responsible adult, put up that house for sale. I still have 2 months in the Airbnb, so I don't have to be around. I got a really good buddy that sells houses. She's married to one of these guys here.
Yep, that's my wife.
When you say you had this money and you were thinking about buying this car, did you buy it outright, cash?
I didn't buy it.
He didn't buy it.
Oh,
That's where he's going.
I could either use the money to go and buy a fancy
it's a choice of money or no money, and they just buy you a car.
No. Insurance is out of the deal. I have like a couple of because like I had 3 different insurance adjusters. Okay. I had one for all the items in my house. I had one for the damage to the house, and then I had one for my car.
So you have all this money,
right?
And so that was my question: is were you using that money to buy a new car like outright, or there's not a lot of money that you put into?
It's a decision he's describing right now. He hasn't finished describing.
What kind of car am I going to buy? Am I going to buy a cheaper car, or am I going to go buy a fancy car that I really want and live in the house that like I was like kind of ready to get out of anyway? So I decided, I was like, all right, let's be an adult. I went and bought basically the exact same 4Runner that I had, and then used the remainder of the money to sell that Buda house and then move into the house that I'm in now. And it was like the best decision of my life. Like literally, I think it's like one of the best. It might be the best decision of my life because I love that house. So
it's a great house.
Yeah, it's a great house.
Yeah, it's good. It's a solid house. You know, now an Airbnb that's sucking wind. So apparently, it's not as good as I.
Oh, it's that house.
It's that house.
Yeah. That's the house he bought after the Buda house.
Yeah,
okay.
That's the new house. Okay. So that's where we're at.
So where we're at now, though, is you've actually moved out.
You know, I feel like Joe
Austin.
Dirt talking to Dennis Miller right now. I'm like, Brandy's coming back, dude.
Yeah, Brandy's totally coming back.
Tell me more about Brandy, man.
So,
yeah.
Well, so
it's pronounced Dirte, excuse me.
Joe Dirte.
Yeah, so after you make that decision, you get rid of the house you weren't crazy about. You get into the new house and you're loving the area. You got your new car. And then, I mean, there's a lot of time we're covering right there.
Her name's Tracy, by the way. She's my third 4Runner, so her is Tracy. Just so y'all know.
Because you obviously did get another car.
I
after
did,
that,
yeah, but it's the exact same. But essentially,
it was a year older, right?
Bigger motor though. Bigger motor, bro.
Yeah, so it's a really big V8.
Yeah.
So big.
All right, buddy. All right. That motor is actually known to be like the best motor they've ever produced.
Yeah, when you have 7 horsepower, it's really tough to blow a motor.
Yeah, sure.
I think
that's part of it. Sounds jealous.
When he says blow a motor, do you know what he means?
The motor that I blew in the first one.
Yeah, he blew one in the first one.
Yeah. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
We can edit that out if you want.
No. That's all part of the story. Overcoming odds. Okay, so folks, I didn't wreck the first
Blow
one.
a motor. Barely knew him.
I was.
Well, I mean, you did wreck the first one, but that's a different story.
Well, in the end, I wrecked it. True. You're right. But before I wrecked it, before I had the chance to wreck it, I blew it by mudding with David, and I had it in 4 low like a fucking idiot.
Going like 45 miles an hour.
I don't know exactly.
35. But either way, he drove past me and his engine was revving so high. I called him and I go, hey, I think you're in 4-wheel drive. He's like, something just happened. I was like, I think you just blew your motor because I just heard a pop. And he was like, yeah, it's not moving anymore.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, like, I can work on cars, but like, I'm still learning, man.
You can put gas in it. And
No, I do the whole thing.
Turn the radio on.
I do the whole thing. It's honestly part of like why I'm so attached to Tracy now. Cause like I've done work on it like with my dad. And so like those are moments that like
stick with you.
When I was younger, he would want to work on cars with me. He had these parts cars and project cars, and he like, come on, let's like we'll work in the garage. And I'm like, I'm gonna go hang out with my friends.
He never did the thing where you held the flashlight. He's like, oh, put the flashlight right here. What are you doing?
Constantly,
yells at you.
Constantly, but like that's all I was good for at that time. Sit there and hold and not even that good at it. And like I'm shaking it.
You're scared. You're like,
I don't even know. Dad, don't be mad at me. But it's like, you kind of come full circle later and you're like, man, I want to spend more time with them. And like that was David's gonna let me get this.
We need to refill HB.
Shot.
Little last half shot.
All right.
We went through that thing so quick.
Nice.
I told you.
Well,
Yellow Rose, A-OK in my book.
This is the first time we've had 4 whiskey drinkers at the table. I really should have bought the bigger bottle.
Yeah.
I fucked that one up, guys.
Happy birthday to you, dude.
I drank the most.
Well, let's do
Let's do a cheers really quick.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think that's a good like a halfway. All right.
You're like, I gotta pee. Then we can make a note, and then I can cut all of it out so it flows.
What's the signal for that?
You just say, I gotta pee.
Yeah.
Yeah, make the noise too.
Coming out next, man with dyslexia. He's got it. So yeah, I got the new house. House was amazing. I love the house. This was a house that David's wife, Maria, who's number one real estate here in Austin. Realtor. I said real estate.
You did.
Damn, fucked it.
It's pretty close though.
She is the number one real estate in all of Yakistan.
Yeah, she didn't choose David's last name.
She's off the market
for her
though.
working name, but yeah, if you hear Maria Galizia, she's the one.
What'd you say?
I said Mama Galizia. Maria Galizia. She's a fantastic realtor. You should check her out.
Yeah, he made fun of me for having strokes on this show earlier, and he's had 2 now.
Yeah, well, you know, she's got a complicated name, that Maria. It's
Maria.
You know, he. Oh, never mind. I thought you were going to do a whole song. You didn't do that.
No, just that.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so we're in the new house. Chris moved in with the new house, and actually, I brought along Aaron and his girlfriend at the time.
Aaron is David's
Girl Ron.
So we nicknamed him Girl Ron and Guy Ron and Girl Ron for a little while.
Aaron.
So there was like 3 dogs living in the house and 4 people. Fantastic setup. But anyway, that's not important. That house was great. Also moving along with that job that we were talking about last. The job was fantastic. Loved all that. But then the change happens where it hit everybody. I think we're all know where we're going. This is like COVID. COVID changed everybody's like landscape on life. You're like, all right, you think that you're going down this one path. You think that this is going to be the way things are going to like play out. And then like you get hit with a massive pandemic. And then like, who knows what's going to happen after that. So COVID hit, and rather than going into the office, that's when I start working from home. And I'm just like sitting there, and it's cool because like I've still got Chris there. So like Chris is like being a
Domino's freak.
Domino's. Yeah. It's called the Napier Special, actually. Yes. Double pepperoni on your deep dish Domino's pizza. That is the Napier Special. So folks, go out and try that real quick. Mine would be the barbecue chicken pizza. But
yeah, ask for it from Domino's. I want the Napier Special.
Give me the nips, please.
The nips, please.
Just the nips, please. Just the nips.
Yeah, we're shortening it. Like, the nips.
The nips. I want the nips. Yeah, COVID. So I'm like just sitting at home working and like living the dream. I think like most people are like, what the fuck? I just get to like, not everybody. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, I had to go to work.
Everyone
had to go to work.
Quick question, because I always worked in the office, right? Probably same as you. Most of us always go in. And I always thought about like, I could never be productive if I just worked from home or remote. Mm-hmm. And then the pandemic happened, and I've never been the same. Yeah. I don't know if I can go back in the office. And I enjoyed the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know a lot of people didn't, but I did.
I mean, there was, okay, go ahead. Yeah, I think.
Well, my main question was,
okay,
did you get dressed every day?
Fuck no.
More helicopters in the new house.
I will tell you.
I was showering, man. Like, just like
I would get up to go to my office for work, and I would see him, and he's just like essentially just in like his athletic shorts and a cutoff shirt,
just old like Domino's slices.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oof, it's a ripe smell over here.
Yeah. I mean, the wardrobe hasn't changed. I'm wearing sleeves right now, but no, the cutoff sleeves and the no underwear athletic shorts is a solid look for me.
Keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Yeah, you're wearing 2 pieces of clothing today. That's it.
I've got socks on.
There you go.
Yeah.
No underwear?
No underwear, man.
You okay?
Yeah. If I'm going to be walking like a decent amount, I'll throw in some stuff because, like, you know, when nobody needs to be like rubbing thighs together.
Let me tell you why that's bad. Because anything can happen to anybody. But
sure.
One of the last, I think it was the last episode that we recorded. We talked about some weird stuff, but there was a time
your balls dangling out of the bottom of your shorts.
I woke up and I put my pants on, and I didn't know that I like. You know when it gets caught in the leg, and you're like, but you go for it.
Actually,
well, that happened. Long story short, I went to work and there was a big rip in my butt.
I did hear that story.
Did you hear that?
I did hear that story.
So you go commando. All I'm saying is there's sometimes it don't work in your favor.
You know, if somebody's looking, that's that's what they want to see.
Or if you're just showing, walking around the office not knowing.
Oh my God, that's a funny thing to circle back to real quick though. So on the story, going back to working with the guy who was like
touching you.
Yeah, that guy. I specifically wore clothes that were wildly unflattering to the office.
Tell us more.
Because I didn't want to be like perk his interest. And he would specifically comment. He's like, why don't you ever wear anything nice?
He said that?
Yeah, he's like, why don't you ever fucking wear anything different? Like, dude, for this reason exactly.
Can you try and mimic what he actually sounded like?
No, man, I really couldn't. It would just be more like what he would say. I think it was just like, you know, you wear those same pants a lot. And it's like,
how old was he?
He was probably
at the time
60.
Ew.
60. Oh man. And like I was saying earlier, like I was older. I was too old for him. He wanted men that were like under 21.
But above 18?
Hopefully. I saw some pictures that were questionable. Like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But,
Oh my God.
he looked smart.
But what would you wear? Describe, what are these things that you would wear?
So the main thing I started wearing were these, and I'm going to cut to a later on when I wore them at the last time I was at the good job that I was at. And I put these pants back on for something because I had to I couldn't wear jeans. I always wore jeans at the most last job, which was a nice job. And I always wore jeans, not slacks, which I had to wear at the oldest job. This is confusing with that.
Yeah, that was a little intense.
Yeah. Anyway, I wore jeans, and so I had to wear nicer clothes. And I had this conference that I was going to that was happening at the new office building. And so like, all right, you got to wear khakis. And so I was like, oh, I didn't really think about this. And I just grabbed a pair of khakis. At that time, I was going to the gym before I'd go into the office. So I would pack my gym bag and wear the gym clothes to the gym and then change. So I wouldn't get an opportunity to see what I was going to look like in the clothes. So you just pick tried and true clothing and then roll out. I hadn't worn these pants since the days of working that original job. So I had forgotten like how terrible they looked.
What were they like? They were parachute pants or what?
Yes, yeah, they were fucking parachute pants. They were like looked like a little newspaper. Like, nah.
Did you MC Hammer your way to the bathroom?
A guy from the 20s yelling out at the
extra,
corner.
extra! We got a new story on the hands breaking fast, boys. They were like high waters. They were really like pretty wide leg for some khakis. And then just like some like, you know, bullshit button down, but the khakis, that was the killer.
Was the brand Jinko?
It really should have been. I think it was just generic like
Dickies or some shit.
Bullshit. It wasn't cool. It wasn't even that cool.
So are we thinking tight on the hips, but loose, but like a foot and a half from the, by the feet?
I'd say the feet were a good like at least 9 inches on either side. So a solid 18-inch.
Shut up.
Like, no joke, dude. Like these were pretty
And you
wide.
wore this with even the good job?
So I wore them going in because I wore them. I brought them in my gym bag. And so I was like, I didn't remember to
So you
check
accidentally brought them, not think
I wore these a million times back in the day.
Styles had changed.
The styles also had changed. Yes.
This is post-pandemic.
Like for real. They had no. This was before pandemic, but this was kind of in the middle of the pack time. And so I put them on, and like I was like, I have to walk out of the gym wearing this shit.
Did you get when you wore them? Did you get fired?
Oh, I got ridiculed like nobody's business to the point where like my bosses, who I love to death, they're no longer my bosses anymore, but they were like, dude, I've got an extra pair of pants in my car. You need to get them.
My God.
And I was like, please. Because like we're like we're the what's it called, corporate office, and all the managers who work on site were coming to like learn from us. And so I'm gonna have to be up there in my fucking paperboy shorts and like be like, all right, don't look at my shorts, look at my mouth and hear what I'm saying.
Wait, so what were you wearing for a shirt?
Shorts. It was like kind of like pictured picture Charlie Sheen from like what was the one?
Two and a half men.
Men. Like kind of like a bowling style shirt kind of thing. Not great either.
A short sleeve collared shirt.
Short sleeve collared button down shirt.
And then you had these parachute pants.
Yes. Selling newspapers on the street corner like a G.
So one of the most embarrassing times in your life.
That was bad. Yeah, because also to make it even worse is
it gets worse.
A long time ago, I had like blown out the crotch in them, and like didn't necessarily care because like I'm a lady and I keep my legs closed. You know, nobody has to see that there's a gaping hole, and I was not going commando at that time too. So I was like, all right, well at least the dick's covered, but
there was holes in this.
There's a hole. It wasn't a rip, but it was a hole where the stitching.
A crater.
Just easy access.
I mean, when you're working with the package that I've got, it really puts a strain on the hem and the crotchal.
Gives you a really tiny hole.
Yeah. You would be impressed. It was the tiniest hole that yeah.
Okay.
So that was that, but that just, you know.
I love that. Yeah. We all have our stories,
Dude,
you know?
When like we would laugh about that years later at that job.
But in the moment,
it was I was sweating more than I am now. I was like, oh my God, I'm about to be in front of people and they don't really even know what I look like. And man, I was so uncomfortable. But thankfully, my boss saved the day. He's like, put these on. I'm like, yeah, dude. Yeah, thank you.
Your old manager looks through the window at you somehow.
Just like walks by.
Does the escalator
funny
thing.
enough, those buildings were like right next to each other. And so if anybody's familiar with like the Westlake area, 360 and Bee Caves, one corner, you got County Line. I'd work that corner. I'm talking about in buildings, not like lifting my leg, because there are homeless people that live out there. One corner on the County Line corner, then one corner on the not going to say the name of that one, but that was the good company. One corner on that one, and then so I've worked 3 of those corners.
Yeah, you did.
One of those corners you worked twice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's that little like you remember that one with the white hair that was always standing out there?
Where are we talking about? Which corner are we talking about?
There used to be a homeless lady that would come into County Line every once in a while. She had white hair, just always out there.
Are we telling the story of how the hole ended up in your pants?
For real. So anyway, let's digress back to where we're at. So
you're at the new place.
Gangbusters. We're loving it. I love my team. I love my boss. I love like the number 2 that's under her. I love it. It's like when you go to coming from a bad job and you go to a new job, it's like, oh my God, you're like, this is what it's like. Like,
what the fuck was I doing?
I was being abused for so long. I just thought that this was life. I thought that this is how it just is. And no, man, if you're in that situation, like recognize that you are being taken advantage of and go find a new one, because there's a good company that's going to take you on and it'll change your life. So COVID hit. And at that point, everybody went remote. And so like,
not everybody.
No, again, yeah, this is where we are before we got back to the pants talk.
Yeah.
High five.
Yeah. So every day I'd see Chris like go off to work and I'm like, oh, that sucks. But I will say, actually at that time, there was a project I was working on, and there would be days where like I would be at my desk working and he would go to work and then he'd come back and I'm still there just like banging away. Like, talking about work here, guys. But that's, the nature of the beast of like doing like salaried jobs, is that like some days you're working long hours and then other days you're not. So anyway, all that was going along really well. And I finally had like, damn, I'm like bored just sitting in here. We're doing things with our friends. We're like doing hangout videos and like,
that was back to the
COVID times,
the Zoom parties we would have on Fridays.
Quarantine happy hours.
Everybody's getting way too drunk, like on video, and then like somebody like pass out for a couple hours, and I'm like, all right, well. But anyway, so there was
I have one real quick little thing from those quarantine happy hours. I remember a friend of ours. She went around, obviously, you know, she was just her and her roommate went around and brought everybody like little quarantine, like baskets for each house that was on the quarantine. And she was like, there's a package at your door. Don't open it until we get on the quarantine happy hour. And then we get on the Zoom call and we all open it, and she got us all what? It was like
smearing off ice. We all got
iced.
Right.
All at once. So we all had to do the fucking chug, the smearing off ice on Zoom.
I was pissed because I literally walked in my door from walking my dogs, and we got that message, and I was like, okay, I was just out there. There's nothing on my porch. So 30 to 45 seconds later, I turn around and there's a package on my porch. I was like, the fuck just happened? How the hell did you sneak over here? And I didn't see you at all.
The quick one.
For anyone that doesn't know, when you get iced, it's smearing off ice, and anyone that unsuspectively, like, you know, finds this bottle of smearing off ice, they have to chug it right then and there.
On one knee.
You have to get down on one knee and you have to chug all of it. And that happened at work one time. But he was like, here, take this this sweatshirt. And I was like, okay. Yeah. We thought we were messing with somebody, like, oh, it's this guy's sweatshirt. And I'm like, okay. He's like, hey, look at the sweatshirt. And I opened it, and it was one of the big bottles too. And I was like, oh, and this is at work. Like 40. This is at fucking work.
And you eat that cat poop.
And so, yeah, I so I had to chug it. But yeah, for anyone that doesn't know what that is. That's
so basically we were just a bunch of 30-year-olds chugging, smearing off ice at that point.
Grown adults.
It gives you a good buzz.
Yeah, it was
sure.
It's got alcohol in it.
For it. I think we have some sweet friends. You know?
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, that was it. Definitely broke up the monotony of the COVID quarantine. It was fun. Yeah.
For sure.
Sorry, I just wanted to bring that up. That was great.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah. But to further break up that same monotony was what kind of got what I had an idea where I was like, well, rather than just like sitting in this house I love, I was like, let's go work remotely from another city. And so it started putting some feelers out there to fellow workers that were also working remote and be like, who's interested in potentially going to another city and like an outdoorsy type city. We can't go to like, I don't know, like fucking.
Can't go to New York.
Delaware.
Yeah, New York would not be the good option in that one. That's
like you're not going to Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah. Sorry, Cleveland.
For other reasons. But New York, I think, is the prime example because that's like a hustle and bustle. And we wanted to go to like outdoorsy places. So I think this was like May, and we decided on Sedona. And Sedona like really kicked off like this whole thing, this whole new adventure that I'm currently on right now. So we went out to Sedona for a week. Fantastic time, got back, and the second I walked back in the house, I was like, should have gone longer. Should have kept going. Like, why did I come back?
It wasn't one of those things where it was just that time on a vacation that felt good?
Well, of course it felt good, and it was great, but it was like, well, there's no reason to still be here right now.
I get you.
We can work remotely from wherever, and I was lucky enough to be in a position that allowed me to do that. So my thought immediately was like, let's get back on the road and do it again, dude.
Was Sedona mostly just something different for you, or was it something that stood out to you that really caught your eye?
I mean, both, because in the end, I ended up moving, and we're jumping ahead a little bit with that, but I ended up moving out to Arizona later on. But it was such a different, like, it's just beautiful out there. Sure. I mean, Sedona's incredible. It's such a cool spot.
So basically on that trip, you're just like, fuck, I can work wherever the fuck I want. So I can work in one city now and I can work in another one next week. You know, I've only got to be logged in and get my work completed.
Yep.
And then I can go hike. I can take the dogs to these forests, parks, wherever I want to go.
Do you hike with the parachute pants?
They got thrown away that day when I traded them out. They got thrown away.
Dude, if you had them, I'd say bring them. We'd hang them up. We'd hang them up.
I'm pretty sure those for sure are gone. I had a couple pair that were like that. They all got tossed out a few years
Not
back.
to go off topic.
No. That's a good one.
So basically, after that Sedona trip, it was like an epiphany, right?
It was like, okay, so there's no reason to not continue doing these explorations. Like, let's go see some shit. Let's go outdoors and like try to see like that trip wasn't even for like national parks or anything. But then that's kind of what got me into this fascination and like love for national parks and what I was like wanting to then do. So the second I like basically walked back in that door, I was like, all right, where do I want to go? And who's coming with me?
Right. Who's coming with me, man?
Yeah, who's coming with me, man? So then I immediately planned at the next one, which was going to be out to Zion and to Moab and to Page. That was, if people don't know, Page is like, it's where Lake Powell is. It's where Antelope Canyon. If you ever see those, like
Page, Arizona, right?
Page, Arizona. Yeah, it's actually not that great of a town. It's kind of like junky, but what's over there by Lake Powell and Glen Canyon is known as the Lost National Park. And I don't know about you, but I get a kick out of the idea of that. And because of the drought that we've been in, all of the like national wonders that are covered or have been covered by that water are being slowly exposed because the water level keeps dropping. Yeah. And so when they built that Glen Canyon Dam, they flooded all of that out. And so all of these arches used to be there. Well, they're still there, but they've been covered by water. And so now as this water's dropping, more and more people are becoming aware of what's in Glen Canyon, like all these like amazing things that are over there. And it's like, it really is. I love it. So most recently, I just went out to another trip. This is a quick diversion on the story. I went out to a place called Reflection Canyon. If you haven't been before, check it out. Super cool. It's like almost like if you envisioned two S's stacked on top of each other, and it's just like all red rock.
Not German
water.
S's.
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Eagles love flying over there too.
It sounded weird when you said it. I had to point it out.
On top, not side by side. Okay. Yeah, but the one I can't get to, I have not been able to hit it because Audi, the special boy, he got two. I burned it. That's a 16-mile out and back hike. I did it one day with both dogs, and they were toast, especially Audi because he's had both of his ACLs repaired. I didn't get to Hamblin's Arch, but I've got to get back out there.
That's on the list.
Yeah,
huh?
that's the one. And I was like right there. I was like 4 miles from it. It killed me that I could not get to it on this last trip. But
damn it, Audi.
Yeah, he was limping around. His body was sore. It wasn't like his knees, I'm sure, were hurting maybe a little bit, but like he was just so sore after 16. And when I'm doing 16 miles, that fool's doing like easily 32, probably way more. So anyway, I did all these trips. The trips continued. Like I did the one out to Utah, and then after that, I was like, all right, let's like blow it out of the water. Let's do one that is epic. This is gonna be a long one. It's gonna be over a month. And so I was like, oh, it's gonna happen. And meanwhile, also Chris he's at the house. So like I got somebody kind of watching the house and keeping the house up. And
I just remember when you were planning this, you were just like, hey Chris, so I'm gonna go on this month-long trip, probably a little longer. You got it, right? I'm like, at this point, Aaron had moved out, so it was just you and me there at the time. And I was
came
like,
home to a green shitty pool in the back.
Yeah, and
above
this,
ground.
This was in December of 2020. I believe.
It was
right.
Yeah.
It was in December of 2020 when this happened. I was like, oh, you mean I get this badass house to myself? Yeah, get the hell out of here.
That's another way to look at it.
Yeah, sorry, that's how I looked at it.
The way that I'm looking at it is like you leave and Chris is like, how do I cook food? Like he doesn't like brush his teeth.
He doesn't have to cook food. They have the nip special at Domino's.
There are a lot of Domino's boxes.
He's ate Domino's for 30 days straight. You know, like he's like,
HB got back and he was like, the garage is full of Domino's. Chris was like, I didn't really know how recycling works, so
he didn't know to bring out.
It was a fort.
Didn't know to bring out the trash or anything. You know, it just smells like shit.
Well, that's not entirely incorrect. It's not Chris's fault. I'm really gonna go more air bearer on this one, but at that time I had also bought this like shitty Intex pool, above ground pool, and I'd be out there like 5:30 drunk floating around. Chris walk home. I'm just out there just like floating
in your parachute pants.
Came home for about a full day of work, and this asshole's just sitting in the pool with a freaking margarita that he just made.
Yeah. I went on.
I'm like, no, I just got home.
I went on. It's a perfect time for the margarita.
There we go.
But I came home at one point, and Aaron and his ex at the time girlfriend at the time, not ex at the time. They had been living in the house. I think you were not there for some reason, Chris.
I don't know.
Anyway, okay, so I knew that she had been over there, and I walked into this fucking shithole. Like the amount of like dishes in the sink and trash everywhere. The pool that I was referencing was darker than lime green. Like this thing was rancid.
Whose fault is that?
Aaron's 100%. But
I wish she said Chris.
Rigby. For those who don't know, did we cover this before? Did Coley cover the Rigby?
No, we haven't talked about Rigby.
Okay, so real quick.
What is Rigby?
Rigby means Richard is great, but... Richard is great, but so it's from a show. It's from Silicon Valley, and it's where
great
these,
show.
Two programmers or programmers, right?
Yeah.
Coders are like sitting there wanting to trash their buddy, but every time they want to trash him, they have to say, "I love him so much, but I'm going to trash him." And so they keep saying like, "Oh, Richard is blah 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 blah." And so they were like, can't we just do we have to tell each other how much we love them every time we want to trash? How about we just shorten it down to like a code, and then we can just say that every time? So they came up with Richard is great, but so Rigby. So anytime that some of our friends like want to like trash another friend, they're like,
Rigby. David's an asshole.
Yeah.
That's not how that works.
But it's with love, it's with love. Like we love them. But anyway, so
Actually, that's exactly how that works.
So that's what I walked in on, and it's fine. Like there's some other things, but no big deal. But yeah, and so I was going on all these like long adventures, and like, oh, whatever. I can't be too mad. I'm out there like living my life. And so the longest one, like the one that I feel like was the most like influential, was the one that was slightly over a month, and that one ended up being out towards just like straight across up to the Oregon coast. Like we followed along the
PCH.
No, we're on the road.
LOL.
That's the Pacific Coast
JK.
Highway.
I'm thinking
You fucking idiot.
PCT, excuse me. guys.
TTYL.
Yeah, WYK.
Yeah. Raffle.
That's not a real thing. No, the Columbia River. So we like followed along the Columbia River, which is like a whole crazy drive, and then like got out to the Oregon coast, spent a week out on like Walport. Then I went down, broke off from kind of like the group. I went with a friend down to Bend. Then from Bend, went to Lake Tahoe and had Chris with my
Lake
family
Tahoe's
out there.
dope.
It was insane. It was my first time.
I went to Lake Tahoe once, and I want to go back, but God, it is so. I'm sure the water level's like nothing now, right? But
I was just there.
I went
fantastic.
there in the summer,
fantastic.
and it was such a great time.
Yeah, no,
I went skiing there like 2 years ago and fucking loved it.
Yeah, so if you guys can go, you guys are thinking where to go to Lake Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe. But there's also a ton of other fantastic.
But
don't go during a holiday.
No, but Lake
go
Tahoe.
to the border town though, because then you can gamble on one side.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Not gamble on the other.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Reno's.
my sister has since moved to Reno, and so now it's like, all right, sis, I'm gonna go
What's
check
in?
out.
Is that Reno though?
Reno's 30 minutes from. It may be a little longer, but like no more than 45
30-ish.
from Reno.
It's like 45 to where you hit.
Tahoe.
Yeah, to where you hit Lake Tahoe.
North Tahoe.
Yeah.
It's the biggest little city in the country.
Yeah, I mean, Reno gets a bad rap because of the show, but I mean,
It's a pretty cool. We stayed there for
pretty
a
bad
night or two. Yeah, I loved it there.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they've got.
I understood
hookers and
why,
such,
because
but-
we were in a nice hotel and the one right across the street, they were turning into a homeless hotel. So I was like, that's a little weird, but
New boot goofing, man.
New boot goofing.
For those who watch the show, Dangle, he likes his boots. So yeah, I'm not going to get into all the spots we stopped, but then like along that route, there was a point where I stopped at Mount Shasta. So if you're not familiar with Mount Shasta,
Oh, I'm familiar.
Chris is up on his sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, what happened?
So Mount Shasta is like kind of known a little bit like Sedona, and the idea that it's got these like energy vortexes. And then on top of that, it's known for like alien activity.
Yes.
And where's this at? Like where?
So this is
Where is this place? What
Northern
state?
California,
Northern California.
right around like Redding, right around Sacramento, his hometown right there. So side note to that, like a year later, I'm talking to my like boss and he's like, yeah, I don't fuck with Mount Shasta. He's like, I've got a fucking aunt there.
Who says that?
She got taken. What? Fucking taken, dude.
What do you mean?
She had like, not like probably like a ton of money, but she had like an estate and she ran across the group that I'm going to get into here in a second. And she gave everything to them and joined the fucking cult.
Wait, she joined a cult?
So there's this idea that there's a whole like separate religion out there. I didn't even really know about a buddy at a dog. I meet random people at dog parks, by the way, guys. And he was a traveler and he told me about Shasta and how cool it was. And I was like, I'm going to go to that. And it was everything he said it was. And he's like, it's like very random. You don't know really what you're going to run into, but like the headwaters for the Sacramento River start there. So like all these hippies like kind of join there and they go to the headwaters and they get their water for like the week. They'll fill it up and they do like these weird like religious ceremonies there at the headwaters. And then there's this idea that there's a lost continent underneath Mount Shasta. It's an inactive volcano. And so there are these like, it's supposedly part of the religion is there's these like really tall, very pale people that will appear in the town from time to time. And those are the people who live down underneath the mountain. And
do you remember the name of
I don't remember the religion. I'm sure you could easily just Google Mount Shasta.
Not the religion, but the
people,
the continent underneath.
I forget the name.
I can't think of the name either.
I forget. Yeah. This is your stuff.
I
buddy.
know.
Yeah, come on. So it's known now as I get to the town and I'm talking to people about this like religion and the idea that these lava tunnels take you down under the mountain and they will lead you down to these like giant openings where this weird religious ceremonies are happening and shit. So I'm like, oh, that's weird.
It sounds like it's Lemuria.
Lemuria. Yeah.
Lemuria. Lemuria.
That was my next guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say that next. But I think the people have a different name too. Like, I think like the people, honestly are born down there. Like people are for sure living down there. So I'm like, that's weird. I don't really think much of that. Cause I'm like, I don't necessarily buy into all of it. I definitely buy into a good bit, but I'm like, all right, I don't know about any of that. Anyway, another thing about this mountain is it has these certain clouds. Chris, what's the type of cloud? Do you know the color of the cloud?
I don't know the name of the cloud, but I can picture it in my head.
Okay.
It's a cloud that covers the mountain itself, and it's very engulfing of it.
Yep.
And the thought is that that's a cloud hiding a giant UFO.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
I can't think of the name of the cloud on the top of my head though.
So
it sounds like the hidden city is called Telos.
Okay.
Oh, that's more than I know. I feel like I heard it, but anyway.
Yeah,
so
advanced beings from a lost continent of Lemuria. And it is showing a picture of that cloud where it's like covering the mountain and then like streaking off to the side.
Yeah. So
it's not telling me the name of the cloud.
So when you get into a circumstance where that hits into your mind and you think that like this is happening, it gets a little terrifying. So that happened to me. And I just hiked to the top of this. It was Black Butte was the name of this little sister mountain. So I could get a good view of Shasta. Incredible time. Loved it. Got to the bottom. Dogs weren't with me at this time because that's like a very treacherous hike. Dogs are back at the house, so I'm not protected. I'm then like, I've seen about this thing called Pluto's Cave, and it's a lava tunnel. It's an old lava tunnel, and parts of it have concaved or collapsed. So there's like openings from the top down in the cave. So I'm like driving out there, trying to find it. It's obviously not well marked. And then when you get out there, and granted, like this is like, what is that? What's the county where they make all the weed out there?
Humboldt.
This is like right in that area. There's literally a town right next to Mount Shasta called Weed. That's the town's name. Weed. So there are all these like kind of farmers out there, and it's just like dirt land and farmers, and they've got signs up that are very intimidating and very like, I'm going to kill you or the aliens are going to take you. So they're
going to probe the hell out of you.
Yeah. And you're like, all right, that's not cool, dude. And
unless you're into it.
I mean, I was not one of those. I didn't want that. I get to where I believe the trailhead is, because that's what All Trails tells me. And I just hop out of my car, and then I'm just following the blue dot on All Trails to get to this cave, you know? And right where I parked my car, there was a sign, and it was like, if the dogs don't get you, the aliens will. I've got a picture of it, something like that. And so I'm like, that's a good way to go into this cave by myself.
So now you shit your pants?
Sit in my pants a little bit, and I finally find the cave, and I get down in there, and and this thing is massive. It's just so massive. I've got pictures of it. So like you can see my tiny little red body. I'm wearing a red shirt. No,
okay, I was weird. I was like, I'm red. My skin is red.
He's very sunburned.
I don't have my inhaler.
Yeah. And I get down in there and I take some pictures and goof off. And there's this kind of mural of what these folks have written on this part of the wall. And it's like all these religious names in like tallies next to each name. And I'm like, this is some fucked up shit. And I'm not even deep into this cave. Like the cave keeps going. And this is just one of many lava caves. What? So I'm like going into it, and I'm about to the point where I'm not uncomfortable, where I'm now uncomfortable. I'm like, I need to get out of here. And I'm turned back. And of course I did not bring a headlamp. So all I've got is my phone. I'm like, that sucks. That guy who like dies in a horror movie first scene.
Yeah. That's definitely like a Netflix special.
Yeah, never to be seen again. And there's two figures at the top of the cave.
Ooh. It could be other people, right?
I'm telling myself that, hopefully these are just other tourists.
Does it look like Mr. Smithers from The Simpsons when he's on those medications? He's like, ooh.
The spruce goose. Yes. They're so far away. I have no idea. All I can see is two images at the top of the cave. And I'm just like, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't know for sure what that's going to be. I'm sure it's people. I'm sure it's people that are friendly. And that's what it was.
What time is this? Is it
middle of the day?
But it's dark in the cave?
It's like basically pitch black down there. Yeah. So I'm like, well, I don't want them to be afraid of me the same way I'm afraid of them. So I'm going to like yell out like, hey, I'm a friendly.
That's how you said it?
The kind of, yeah. I tried to say it as like, hey, I'm a good guy. I'm a friendly.
I'm not an alien or live in this cave.
Yeah. And they yell back. They're like, hey, it's okay. And I'm like, okay, good. So then we like meet, we talk for a second, and then I like make my way back to my car, but my GPS is not working right anymore. It's like spinning, like what you see in those movies where like it doesn't know where the fucking magnet is supposed to, the north. It's not picking it up. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay, I'm pretty sure it just went this way. And like, and I finally found my way back to my car. I'm like, God damn, thank God. I have full service, full bars, Verizon, the fucking guys, like.
They're definitely number one when it comes to phone service.
It's full bars though, man. And so I'm like, what was happening? I can't call anybody. no calls are able to go out.
Did you turn it off and turn it back on?
I did all these things. I turned it on, turn it back on, like. And so then I get to I finally find my car, and it won't start. Okay. Well, like I prepared for this. I have a jump starter with me because I knew I was going to be doing this trip solo. So I have a jump starter. It'll be all right. It'll be all right.
What's your car's name again?
Tracy.
Okay.
Tracy, we're good.
Tracy's not awake.
I pat her. I'm like, we're okay. I go and I open the hood, and one of the battery terminals is off.
Like disconnected.
What?
Oh, geez.
It's disconnected. So I'm like, I'm sure it was just some off-roading. It just jiggled loose. Because like, how else could they have gotten in here? And like, to this day, I have to believe that. Like, that has to have been what happened. But for like all the things to line up and for that to be the case, my phone's not working. It's got full service. And now like the battery terminal is removed. I'm like, I'm about to get probed here. So I like put on the battery terminal. I didn't have to use my jump starter. It starts. I'm like, oh, get the fuck out of here. Fuck these people. Like, cause there's, my friends that it's made are like still in the cave. I'm like, I don't know about them, but I'm getting out of here.
Damn.
And,
just yelling into this is like, you should fucking leave.
Get out now. And I hit the road and I'm like, I don't care where I'm going. I'm just getting out of here.
So when you, the car battery terminal, you're saying the positive and negatives were disconnected?
Only one of them.
One of them was.
Only one was. Yes. Yep.
That's. I mean, you can shake that loose off-roading, I guess. It seems very unlikely.
Weird timing. I'll say that.
Very weird timing, man.
Back to the timing theme that we have here.
So what do you think it was?
I mean, there's only one answer.
Who do you think? Aliens.
One answer. It's aliens.
It's aliens, man.
So, but still, service is not working. I can't make any calls. I can't use my GPS. I'm now just using the power to like find my way back, like just channeling the power. And,
I was like, what the fuck is the power?
Yeah, what is
Why don't I have one?
Oh, the Force. Excuse me.
Yeah,
the
there you
Force.
go.
The Force.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, man.
That's a great Star Wars reference.
Should have stuck with the power. Finally find my way back to the road, and that's when I see the cloud. And I've yet to, at this point on the trip, I saw another one.
Can you explain this cloud?
It looks like a big upside down plate. It's like a big upside down plate, and it just moves, and then it moves over the mountain.
So it kind of looks like a giant
right there.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So think of it like, it's very thick.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's connected to the rest of the clouds. What we're looking at is a giant mountain, and there's this big cloud ring kind of feel around this tip of the mountain, the peak.
Just the tip, though.
Just the tip.
Just the tip.
And it does look weird. You don't typically see that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's easy things to be like, well, it's a big ass mountain, man. It's a cloud that collided into a big ass mountain. Yeah. But when you see one kind of floating offside to the mountain before it gets onto it, and then all the things that I just explained to happen, you're like, I don't know about this. And on top of that, like this isn't a mountain range. So when you get in the area, the vicinity of this mountain, it's like, this sounds so cheesy and corny, but like there's a power from this thing. Like as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, that's Shasta. Wow. But
it's something you don't typically see, and you see something abnormal like that, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to feel a little off, especially with your little story of like, you're going in here and you see these two silhouettes, but then you find out those are regular people, and then your car's your
GPS been taken off. The phone's not working with full fucking bars. Yeah. All the bars are on there.
There's a lot of like connections of weird things that were happening in that space.
And you're solo, I was in the time.
100%.
So like that just kind of like gets in your mind more. And then like by the time I got to the road, now I
do you hike
5 minutes out, I got service.
Do you hike with a knife or anything?
I do and I don't. Goes back and forth. I also do bear spray too, depending on like where I'm hiking. I'll do bear spray.
I feel like anyone out there, if you're running any solo activities, you should have something.
Yeah.
Whether you think, we all have a fire extinguisher in our kitchen, right?
Sure.
Besides Chris. Besides Chris, you don't expect a fire, right? But it's nice to have something.
It is, yeah. And so I, especially with all the solo camping I've been doing more and more, and off the beaten path dispersed camping that I've been doing, a lot of that, I do sleep with a knife in my pocket, even though I'm like, don't take it from me and stab me.
No,
no.
Just like giving this guy, I'm just giving the guy attacking me a weapon.
Like I could fist fight this fuck, but like now I just I might have given him a knife.
Put on those parachute pants and go to town.
Yes, yeah.
Well, so let's kind of get into the like kind of solo trips that you did. So like, you were telling us before we started recording about some books that really kind of changed things for you. And
for sure, yeah.
Did that kind of go into like the more solo trips and kind of finding your own stuff, or like let's kind of get into that a little bit?
Yeah. So there's a lot of them. There's a lot, and like then it's like once you do a few, then it's like this is like this like never ending thing, and it's like almost kind of a sickness, and it truly, I think it kind of can be, because you lose some of the joy when you see certain things, because you're like, you get up there and you're like, oh, well, this isn't better than that. And you're like, you kind of like lose some of it. And that's a shame. But for the most part, I still love them. Like they're amazing, and I do them all the time, and I can't stop doing it. But there's like a moment where there was this book that I very much had been wanting to read, and I put it off and I put it off. And there was this trip that was a work trip. It was out to Las Cruces. And rather than flying, I was like, all right, I'm going to drive this thing. And I'm big on these road trips. I'm listening to like books on tape. there was this book that somebody had recommended to me 2 years prior. And I think passively I put it off because I knew it was going to like incite change. And I was like, I'm just not ready for this right now. You know, I was like, I didn't want to do it. I was not ready. And so I listened to this book. The name of the book is, and I'm not a fan of the title, but we can get into the what I think he's kind of going with it later. But the title of the book is called No More Mr. Nice Guy, and it's by Robert Glover. I believe it's Robert Glover. And the concept of the book is really kind of, it's a lot of certain things, and yeah, it's geared to men, but I really believe that women can easily get a lot of benefit out of it as well, because it can kind of give you maybe some insight into like what we might be thinking, or what like your boyfriend or ex or whatever the hell might be thinking. And so I think a lot of it like kind of goes back to this concept of like, I think there's a lot of, me included, of pretty passive men, and there's this generation of men that aren't as like alpha, like the big dick energy guys that like every girl like wants to see, you know? And like there's this whole thing about like kind of shaming it, which is kind of fucked up to begin with. But in this book, he kind of goes into the concept of like how we're at where we're at. And one of those things, it kind of goes back to this concept of like back 100 years ago, like young men or boys, they worked in the field with their dad. You know, they learned firsthand what strength looked like. And when I say strength, I don't mean just like manual labor, but like what, like the embodiment of like manlyhood is, you know? And then as this, 9 to 5 work situation happened, it kind of like drove the dads out of the house. And so then boys were then left to learn manlyhood from their moms, which is great. But like you lose a lot of that masculinity when that's how you're learning, you know?
There's a quote out there. I don't know if you ever heard this. Okay. I don't know if it's in the book or not, but it goes, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. Yeah.
I mean, that's
it's
like
kind of a cycle here,
sure.
Right? And I don't know if that's kind of what a takeaway of what you took from that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, no, I think that like it summarizes it pretty well. I mean, obviously the book goes into a lot of more in-depth situations and but that is, I think, a good summary of the book and just kind of what I took away from it. And like, I'm listening to this thing and I'm like, it's about 7 hours if you're going to listen to it in Audible. And I'm like laughing, I'm crying. I'm like smacking the steering wheel out of like agreement and frustration. All of these like emotions are like pouring out of me as I'm just on this massive open road. And it was just like an aha moment of, okay, there are things that I recognize that I need to actively try to change and grow with. And so I got to Las Cruces. We did our work, whatever. We're sitting around the campfire, talked to my bosses, and I'm like, hey guys, like, look, I just kind of had this moment. I'm like, I gotta potentially make some changes. And I think in the end, it's going to boil down to me kind of wanting to move out of Austin. Like, would y'all be all right with that? Like, dude, we can't lose you. Of course. Like, whatever you need to do. You've been working remote for 2 years. Do what you got to do. So I'm like, green light. Let's fucking go. Matthew McConaughey right there.
All right.
And so I'm like, let's fucking go, man. All right. I was dreading that conversation. Granted, we had some bourbons. We were like, telling lies, calling up the women folk around a campfire with some bourbon. So it's like, who knows what they remembered of that conversation. But no, they fully remembered.
Yeah.
And so then I just start I get back home and, before I do that, I then go to Guadalupe Mountains National Park, and I write this letter. And the letter was to an ex. And while it was to an ex, it was also to myself. And it allowed me to pour out everything. You know, I hadn't written anything like that. Not like that ever. And it went into why I am the way I am. And then most importantly, what I could see that I wanted to change and work on. And so it was like a commitment to myself to then actively work those things out. So I get back, sought out some therapy, and I think that's highly important for everybody to do. That being said, I've had terrible experiences with it. I've actively did therapy for 3. No. I saw 3 different therapists. I think the total amount of time was a pretty short period of time, maybe about a year-ish.
Sure.
And all of those experiences were terrible. But I'm not done with that concept. I still am going to go back to it, but they were not good. All these therapists were garbage. But
really?
They were just the worst, man. I could go into explanations on like why they were terrible, but they're like checking their phones while they're talking. They're like just different ideals than I had. Or the worst was one who I think was a little senile, and he was sending mass texts to people, like all of his clients that were included on one text.
So would you say maybe if you're seeking out therapy, which is a very good thing, I mean, if you have no one else to talk to, I mean, that's really the route that you should go to find some sort of, happiness. Or
if you can't talk on a podcast with your buddies for like 2 hours, then this is the next best thing.
But the trick is finding that right person. You got to find a good match, and sometimes that might take a while.
How long would you give somebody, like, obviously these people, there's red flags like you just mentioned, but would you say if you don't feel it within a certain amount of time frame, what would that time frame be before you?
I'd say if you don't feel it within 3, I think
3 sessions.
I think that you got to bail on that person.
Okay.
The last one, I gave him a while. I gave him much longer than that because I was made aware that he was unable to follow me to my next step. So he was the one I was talking with most about. Like, he was the last one, and so I was talking with him about what I was planning on doing, and that involved me moving out of Austin, getting to Arizona. And I was like, I'm going to let you go when I make that trip. And then I'm like, in my head, what our last conversation was going to be, I was going to, this has been nice, but I'm going to move on. And he's like, just so you know, I can't move to Arizona with you. It's like a licensing thing. And I'm like, oh, well, actually kind of works out perfectly. And I was like, all right, cool. I couldn't stay with you anyway. But for sure, no, absolutely seek it out. But like, I've been in such a holding pattern with like, kind of like the travels and all, like it's been hard to find somebody where I was currently living. So I then put forth the steps to make the move from Austin because I just felt stagnant. I felt like I was happy and content, but I wasn't like going above and beyond my comfort zone. I wasn't pushing myself to be better than where I was. And while where I was at was good and satisfying, I just felt like there was more in there. And I wanted to push those boundaries. And so part of that, I think, was breaking away and going outside the box, being closer to national parks and stuff that like interest me. Austin's amazing. It's when I tell people that don't live here, I'm like, if there was any city that I would move to, it would be Austin if I didn't live there already. I'm like, go to move to Austin. Austin's fantastic.
But don't move here.
Yeah. There's that.
We've got enough people.
There's that side of it too.
It takes them 10 years to build a new road. Please.
Don't.
What did it take? What did that section by your awesome house? It took them like 6 years to build that road,
and they're redoing it.
And no. They're just starting the next 2 mile section. So I'm like, great, we're gonna be on this section for 2 years. You fucks.
Yeah, and they're also, I think, redoing that part of that.
They are doing
that overpass. That overpass.
It's a nightmare.
It's a fucking shit show.
Yeah. So HB, do you tell us a little bit about like the satisfaction of moving to a different city and making those what feels like a really big decision, right? Because you got friends, you have this kind of lifestyle that you've built up for yourself. What has been sort of the positives of moving out and taking that big step.
Yeah. And what was that aha moment? Like it's time. This is the time that I need to go. That book kind of got you there, or?
The book for sure did, but I wasn't, I was still trying. At first I wanted to make some changes here in Austin. And then I was like, well, these are half measures. I want to go all in. I want to go ahead and do it. One of the nicest things about it was the like, everybody know. Well, I don't want to say that. I've got some really great friends, you know, and
yeah, we're okay.
Well, I'm not talking about you.
He's not talking about us.
I thought that was obvious, Chris.
Jesus.
It's not like this had anything to do with the decision, but the support that I got from everyone
Besides Chris.
was like, yeah, fuck this guy.
Chris is like, where am I going to live?
This guy. No, Chris had already moved out.
I was going to say, at this point, I was already in Dallas. So.
Yeah, Chris was living in Dallas at the time. So it was just like, it was pretty heartwarming to see all of that. And then it's just exciting to then make that next jump, you know, where who knows like what's going to. And so with that, so like I had to overcome a lot of obstacles to make it happen. Everything in a way was like coming up my way for like a good 4 years. It was like, I couldn't miss, like everything was just working out and it was fantastic. And granted, a lot of work that made that happen, but it just seemed like everything was going my way. And this past year, I've been kicked in the dick, man. Like it's been a lot of fun, but there have been massive setbacks and even to make the move out. So there was a point where I was like, I've made this decision. I'm moving and I've got all my ducks in a row and I'm ready to kick the first domino to knock them all down. And it's like, all right, first domino, click. And it's like, it fucked it up. The first domino fucking
domino fell, nothing else fell behind it.
Fucked it all up, man. Yeah. So I had everything lined up. This included like getting like a HELOC set up so I could buy a house out in Phoenix. This included setting up like relationship stuff, work stuff. Everything was ready to go. And then I sent the official email to leave, not to leave the job, but to leave Austin. And they were like, things have changed.
Like they weren't going to help you?
No, they weren't going to allow me to move anymore. And they slowly let me bleed out over about 2 years or 2 weeks, where everybody else who had gotten out before, like other coworkers that worked for that company, they got it like approved just like that. They were like, they asked for it. They're like, yeah, go ahead. But I was the last one that got caught at the door. And they're like, nah, get back in that fucking house, dude. You're not leaving. And I was like, dude, I've already gone too far.
What'd you do?
I can't go back now. So I had to find a job. And so I left this job that I loved and the people that I worked with, and I went and found another job.
So just so I understand here. So you had everything planned. Mm-hmm. You had a place that you're going to move into. You had movers. You had whatever.
Sure.
And your job goes, we're not helping. You're not moving. We're not helping you move. We're not expecting you to move. No, nothing.
Can't do it.
So now you're moving without a job.
Well, I then had to slow the roll.
Yeah. I mean, what time is this happening? Like, because a lot of this, I mean, you're working at home because of COVID.
Sure.
Like, why are they going like, hey, you can't, no, you're here.
The interest rates went up. And so they went from a company that was looking to buy and get more properties to a company that was at least sitting tight and potentially selling off properties. But the big thing was like, and I don't be necessarily speaking out of like term, but like, or out of school, whatever, is that a new office building had been bought. And I believe they wanted smiling faces in the building. And so they were like, during COVID, they bought this building, wanted people to be in it. And so they're like, you're a smiling face. Want you to be in there. And so that's that they denied it.
But I'm moving.
Yeah. But you didn't have that mustache at the time.
Yeah, it's probably the stash that got him.
Would have sold it.
Probably you'd have been like, look at this stash. They'd be like, you go where the fuck you want.
Yeah. Did you request off a video and then you talked to him on video afterwards and they saw the stash?
The stash is recent.
Stash is like it's like a few months old now. It was a full beard before, not David style, like a reasonable beard.
Final question for this topic, but are mustache rides a thing in your world?
100%. Why would you have a mustache? If you're not gonna
That's the only reason why you have a mustache.
Yeah, why would you not? Well, the mustache is always there as a part of a beard, but it's definitely.
Hey, as long as it's working out in your favor, HB.
Yeah, no, I mean, like the mustache is it's an acquired taste.
I'll say this:
and most friends
there's very few people that can rock a mustache,
and you are not one of them.
God, when he showed up in his...
Let's get a public opinion on that. Yeah, some public opinion.
I was going to say
fantastic.
You rock it.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
He showed up at my house with a flat bill cap and that mustache. And I was like, the fuck are you doing here?
Rock and roll.
Were you crawling inside like,
No, I didn't need to. You know, he was just, sometimes David gets a little upset. He's the beard guy. You know, you don't want to like show off with like anything too off the handle, No,
not for much longer on that beard.
Yeah, that's true.
The way Chris is going,
yeah.
David's going to look like a chemo patient.
Yeah, I mean,
For like 2 months.
I've seen David without the beard, and
it's not good.
It's not the best, but
we'll see what it looks like fucking 10 years later, though.
What does that mean?
I've had this for like 10 years now.
Now 10 years later. Yeah. I'm sure it's going to be great.
Probably going to be
I
horrible.
still feel like I want to see the whole. I want you to put a cup over your beard.
Oh my God,
and
yes.
trim around the cup.
So we were
That's
talking.
what Chris has.
Yeah. No. We were talking about options of what to do to David whenever Chris meets his goal here, right? And one of them was what you just explained, like put a little cup over the mouth. And you shave everything around that cup.
Yes.
And all you're left with is a really crazy circular.
Yeah.
I can't even say that.
Circular.
A perfect circle.
Yeah.
Rock and roll, baby.
Oh my God.
Same measure.
Fuck you.
Well, it sounds like I thought the leading one was the double mustache, though.
That's still kind of my number one. I don't know.
Let me just say
we'll
this.
Find some other ones.
If you've made it this far in the podcast and you have any crazy ideas for this little haircut that we can give, it's beard hair with David. As long as Chris hits the goal of losing 100 pounds,
it's going to happen.
Give us ideas, write some comments, leave us some reviews for this stuff, and we'll take it in consideration.
Also, at the same time, I have not done anything besides just trim the edges of my beard. So this thing's grown like almost a full inch in the last like 4 months.
So this is gonna be nice.
I'll say this.
It's gonna be. It should be. I mean, it kind of stops right about here, so we might get another 1 to 2 inches in the next 8 months.
Can you donate beard hair?
You cannot.
Beard hair is like pubic hair.
Shame.
Yeah, I don't think they give. I don't think that's a thing you can donate to chemo patients.
It's science. I know.
Some guy's like, I had a really nice beard. It'd be awesome if I.
I mean, they need like beard wigs.
No, they don't.
I don't think that's a thing. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean,
movie sets and stuff. Yeah.
We were watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine the other day, and he had a whole fucking beard wig on.
Can you imagine Leonardo DiCaprio wearing your beard hair?
No,
I'd be honored.
Well, no,
that'd be kinda cool.
but Lieutenant Boyle for sure.
Yeah, not as honored.
Okay. Let's get back on track here. So let's get back to the move to Phoenix, right? Let's get back to.
So yeah,
like,
you kind of touched on one thing. There was like a moment of like a realization or whatever. So there kind of was. It kind of is like one big thing, but there was this kind of like a clarity moment. It was actually with you in the back patio of an Airbnb that we had rented. So there was a moment where I was like, I wasn't for sure I wanted to be in Phoenix. What I wanted so I went to Phoenix. I should specify that's where I moved to this past year. I've recently moved out of Phoenix. I had enough. But when I got there, I'd settled in Phoenix because, like, for one, I just loved Sedona. I had loved how its proximity to a lot of things. To all these national parks, to beaches, but I wasn't necessarily in love with the town. So when we got there, I was like, okay, we're going to go up there for a month, be for sure this is where I want to be, and then make a final choice at that point. So Chris and our buddy Eddie came up there with us, and we had like a ball. We fucking went up there and just had a fantastic week. Like we did all these things. Eddie won like 10 grand in slots, by the way, too.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That dude is the luckiest
He hit
person
the
in
jackpot like 10 times, maybe more.
Do you know his
Unreal.
strategy?
Put money in a machine.
things.
Yeah.
Obviously,
It's
Max
insane.
bet, was he in the high roller?
I don't think he's even doing that. I think I don't know.
He just won a shit ton of
If
money.
I
that time.
hadn't have seen, because I lost my ass like within the first 30 minutes, I was like, I'm out of here. I'm getting out of here. And then I saw all these like pictures of him standing by his jackpot machine.
It's like at
and just, like,
8 grand was the first one, and then he
grin on his
continued.
face.
I think he ended up winning like 16 grand that trip. Yeah.
He did pay for a bunch of cool like things, so that was all good. But anyway, there was a moment of us like Chris and I were on this back patio, and there was a moment of like, the second I got to Phoenix, I was like, I don't think this is where I want to be. I was like, it's pretty hot, and this town kind of
How long you been
bit
there?
of a bummer. I was there for 13 months, but while I was in that moment, I was like, you know what, like. It doesn't matter. Like, this is like where I've decided to be. It doesn't matter where I go. It matters of like my feeling towards it.
You kind of sound like Matthew McConaughey just now. I'm just going to say that.
Oh,
Like,
right.
You know, it's so funny on the trip out, because this is before he moved out there. This is like his like going out there
Expedition trip.
to go check it out. And we actually listened to Green Lights, which is Matthew McConaughey's like autobiography.
Sure. My second time.
Yeah. And
No big deal.
we listened to it on the way out there. And you sound exactly like that because you had that epiphany after listening to that a second time on the way out there.
I mean, I sound like him. I look like him. Really, they're just like the similarities are
One of those is true,
man. I mean, we're like Austin buds. It's a cool deal.
All right.
I met him as a young lad. No big deal.
How do you feel about the University of Texas?
Well, you know, I grew up loving them, but going to Tech, you can't. And then coming back from Tech, and the way like the Longhorn fans are, it's like it's hard to like swallow. They were lovable losers for the longest time. Vince Young comes along, and all of a sudden they're like, let's get our network going.
Well, quick question.
People don't like this talk. I get it. It's fine.
Quick question though. So Phoenix, 13 months.
Yeah.
You're planning on moving again though.
Yeah.
Right? But quick question.
Okay.
So you moved to Phoenix, 13 months. Does moving again have the same feeling?
No, totally different.
yeah.
It honestly, it's like there's been so much. Like I kind of mentioned, like getting kicked in the dick earlier. For one, there's all these obstacles that got set up that it hit me right as I was trying to get out. The job not letting me do it. My identity got stolen. I had mail fraud. My dog's legs, our pets are flying. I blew out his second ACL, so I had to pay for that. I'm bleeding money. I'm like, okay, this is the moment, man. Like, if you want to turn back, nobody's going to fault you at this moment if you decide to back out. And I'm like, no, this is also the moment of like, this is how you get rewarded. You got to fight through this bullshit and make it happen. I got out there and like I got a homeless woman coming in my apartment late night because the door was unlocked. What? I got some weird things happening out there. I'm like, you know what? I think I've had enough of Phoenix. But like, so when I first moved out to Phoenix, I decided on Phoenix between them and Denver. And I was like, well, Phoenix is the path less chosen. I'm going to go with that. And we'll see how it goes. If I don't like it, I'll kick it to Denver. And that's what I'm doing. So back in Austin, there's like a whole plan. I'm going to be going up to Denver actually on Saturday. I'm going to be up there for a month doing the same kind of trip that I did with Chris and Eddie. And then it doesn't really matter, but I'll be moving officially in February. And I'm super pumped. But like there's been so many things going on that it's hard to sit down and just like enjoy it.
Well, what are you trying to look for? What's your end? What would be like, this is perfect to me?
Oh, community.
So people,
community,
environment,
community. And actually when I say that, like that comes with, for me, it's a multiple part thing. It's also like community for my dogs.
On the spectrum.
Well, for at least one of your dogs.
Yeah, right.
The other one really only cares about dragonflies and birds.
What's funny though is there's like not many birds in Phoenix. So we get to the dog park and out he's like, I don't really have anything to do here. There's no squirrels, there's no birds, because there's no trees. And he's like, I guess I'm going to try to socialize, but he's so awkward he doesn't know how to socialize. So he's like barking at dogs randomly. He seems aggressive, but he's so not. He's like a giant wiener. And it's just like, all right, we do better in greenery with trees and water. And so like finding a place so part of my fuck up with going to Phoenix is that like I decided to go downtown because I thought that was like going to be like a fucking hip and upcoming spot, which it is.
It is.
But it's just not and it was fewer mountains over there. There's not that many mountains in Phoenix anyway. Well, the weather is actually great on a lot of the months. It's the summer is brutal.
When you got dogs.
And then the dog parks are horrible.
Fucking absent.
It's the worst thing ever.
We went out there. I went out there twice. And one of the times he was like, yeah, let's go to the dog park. And we went like a block and a half down from his apartment and we went into this fenced parking lot. I was like, this is the dog park. Obviously, it's not the actual dog park, but you're like, yeah, I bring my dogs down here sometimes.
Yeah, so folks, what I was doing since I live downtown and this is Phoenix, there's no grass. So I was just going across the street or two. Really, I was cycling between parking lots and trying to find the best open area for them to be running around and waiting until somebody would kick us out. And that was just, we would rotate from parking lot to parking lot. These are city dogs now. They're shitting and pissing in asphalt
on the street,
and that's the life. So now they get to move to beautiful Denver and live like in alpine lakes and have green stuff. And it's like they got tons of parks. And so I think that it makes way more sense for me. But I wanted to be challenging at first,
Well, curious, and maybe this is the final thought here, right?
Yeah.
And amazing story, by the way. Right? Like, and I feel like
just beginning, baby.
But I feel like a lot of people can relate. Like you don't really know what the world's gonna offer you, and you have this idea, and then you go through it, and then the world changes, right? And then you take every opportunity that you can, and you try and work your butt off any chance that you get, right?
For sure.
That offers you so many other opportunities, and you've taken risks.
Yeah.
And you've dealt with adversity and random stuff like a truck running into your garage, right? And you could have died. Butterfly effect. If you would have done this, maybe it would end up this way.
I'm saving lives, man.
Yeah. You're saving lives. And you've taken the big jump that a lot of people are afraid of, which is moving where you're actually feeling comfortable-ish.
Yeah.
Right? And now you're doing it again and you feel more comfortable.
Yeah,
finding that new spot.
That is a big part of it. Yeah, as I think that like now that it's like almost secondhand now. It's like, this is. Yeah.
So my question to you, maybe this is the final thought here, is based on your experience, what would you tell people that are in the beginning stages of something that you started with in your own life?
Well, I think I got a good one here. So part of that book that I was talking about is this general concept that he kind of threw out there. And he's like, a lot of people want to like go through life and people please. They want to be this like smooth rock, and that way they can pass through difficult situations and that smooth rock won't get caught up on anything. He's like, but the thing is like, it's those crevices, those like harder jagged spots that are the things that attract other people and that get caught on you as you're passing through each other on life. So like, don't be afraid to like, just be who you are and say what's on your mind, and don't like people please because you think that's what somebody else is going to want to hear, because it's actually those like rough spots that are going to attach people to you. It's like, if you were to imagine like rolling a tennis ball through like mulch, that tennis ball is just going to come back just covered in mulch, a lot of debris on it. But then if you grabbed like a racket ball and you roll it through that same mulch, the thing's going to you can put it right back in the package and nobody's even know. So I've always been like kind of more like that racquetball, and then Wall, like there's a lot of people that I think are like, oh, he's a nice guy. It's not necessarily something that's going to then like pick up that extra like mulch, you know. So like in the end, just like be yourself and don't worry about like trying to people please, you know. Fucking speak out, be yourself.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, being the rougher edge brings out more character, and more character brings more people that will attach to you, the right people to attach to you.
Yeah, those things are what aligns to you. So when they get like caught on like that piece of you that's maybe you think it's jagged, they're like, you know what, this guy's really speaking my language. You know, I can roll with this
little
guy.
jagged piece. I like that little piece.
Yeah.
That's the good part.
Yeah. For some reason, these guys they caught on a jagged piece of mine, and here they are. You know, years later.
Yeah.
I feel like I stuck to the smooth part. I was just like, nah, that's a cool guy. I'm gonna stick to that.
Yeah.
They would just like that real smooth ass part of that.
Yeah, like eggs.
Eggs. Fucking eggs.
No ass.
Yeah. But that's about it, you know? I mean, yeah, we'll see what this next chapter brings. I'm excited about it. And you know, who knows? Maybe it worked. But at the very least, like there's always a spot to come back to here in Austin. That's the best part about it, you know?
Well, the best thing is you're going to Colorado. You're leaving in 2 days. Luckily, you're going to stay one extra day to actually hang out on my birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Happy.
But me and Chris are going to come out and visit you we'll be out there for, I think it's like 5 days. Go see a game, go fucking explore, maybe hit some trails.
See a show. Red Rocks.
See a show.
Red Rocks,
Let's not talk about the show. Shh. Nobody listens to this podcast.
Well,
but I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a great experience. And I personally think you're going to really enjoy being out there. It's one of the places I really want to be. And it's a place I'm looking to possibly purchase, like maybe just like a secondary kind of
party house,
kind of place to go, maybe an Airbnb type place where I can go like 2 weeks a year. I got to go.
Maria's gonna buy a big piece of land, and we're all gonna come out and play.
Yeah, not David.
I have my own money.
And not land money. Not
Well, HP, man, dude, we absolutely appreciate you coming out here, man. Dude, and I can speak for all three of us and say, dude, we love the shit out of you, and we're so excited for the next chapter of your life, moving on and having some more crazy stories and having some more fun, and look forward to visiting you out there, obviously. And yeah, man, love the shit out of you, man. Definitely. Thank you so much. But for everybody out there, you know, if you have any questions for HP, if you have anything at all, hit us up on the socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everything. If you want to get in contact with HB, we'll definitely, you know, give him your information for him to hit you up, or vice versa. But until next time, y'all, keep rising, keep inspiring. And like HB's story, your story matters.
Exactly, guys. Cheers.
Take it down.
Can I be color blue?
What? This is the same.
I prefer color blue.
Really?
I want the blue color.
Everybody's at 35.
Cowboy blue, huh?
That's right.
What about the actual settings that we were messing with?